It's time for Mac Break Weekly. Andy, Renee, Alex, they're all here. Lots to talk about. iOS 15 Beta 6 is out. We'll tell you what happened with that, and also some very good news for people who hated the new Safari. 14.7.1 is causing some problems for iPhone users. A new bill in Congress could really change the way the App Store works. And yes, we've got more information about Apple's CSAM technology. All that's coming up, plus a lot more. In fact, we've got some great picks of the week this week. Mac Break Weekly is next.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Mac Break Weekly, episode 779, recorded Tuesday, August 17th, 2021. It's not a clown, Bill. Mac Break Weekly is supported by AT&T Active Armor. We rely so much on our phones these days and are always on them, whether it's live streaming content, catching up with family on weekly video calls, or watching your favorite podcast. There's no room for fraud calls. Thankfully, AT&T makes customer security a priority, helping block those pesky calls. It's not complicated. AT&T Active Armor. 24/7 proactive network security and fraud call blocking to help stop threats at no extra charge. Compatible device and service required. Visit att.com/activearmor for details. It's time for Mac Break Weekly, the show where we cover the latest news from Apple. There's not a lot of news because guess what? I think we're going to have some news from Apple in a couple of months anyway. Meanwhile, weeks? Yeah. Who knows? Meanwhile, we should get together to talk about the non-news. Renee Ritchie is here. At least we don't have to talk about CSAM. Well, maybe we do. Renee Ritchie is here. He is from youtube.com/Renee Ritchie. Hello, Renee.
Leo, like the rage never ends. We just cycle the rage. We talked about that rage last week. This week it's all Electron app rage. Yeah. We have fresh new rage.
I wonder how much of that is really Twitter based, because Twitter ain't nothing without the rage, and so you got to keep that going.
It tells you that you. It tells you have to broadcast an opinion you know nothing about as fast and as loudly as possible.
Yeah, exactly.
And like the fun ensues.
Andy Ihnatko's also here. WGBH in Boston's Andy Ihnatko. Hello, Andy.
Hello. I'm pretty salty as it is, and boy, this thing that we're about to talk about, it's outrageous. It got me even doubly salty. Ooh, can't wait to mix it up.
Outrageous. And from Hollywood, it's Alex Lindsay, 090.media, officehours.global. Did you do office hours from Hollywood, from the Abington studios?
I did. I didn't do it. I'm in Abington Studios in Sherman Oaks. It's a hidden location in Sherman Oaks. But I actually did it from my hotel room. I did office hours, and I took a picture. If you go up on Twitter, I took a picture of what I did to my hotel room. My hotel room was this is actually much better. So to be honest, I didn't feel like the quality of my hotel room was high enough for Mac Break. Well, it's just that we have radio mics, and I have it still was very good. But you'll see the lighting. I actually replaced the lighting in the hotel room with hue lights. So
it's quite beautiful, actually.
I was like, that was my little setup for what I actually did.
So you went around and screwed in the light bulb, the hues into the.
Yeah, it works great.
You just naturally carry hue light bulbs in your suitcase?
Well, actually, I got down there and decided it wasn't worth. So I had them sent. I ordered them and sent them to the hotel.
You were
I was like, this is intolerable. I can't do office hours day after day after day looking like this.
How do you control those without access to the Wi-Fi?
The new ones are Bluetooth, so you just literally.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So you just move the lights on, and now I've used up my I've now used up my pick for the week.
Oh no, you haven't. It's still more.
All right, there we go.
We want to hear.
He pluses it on the day. That's what Alex does. He pluses it on the day.
Yeah. Mix Pre 2 with Noise Assist. Is that built into the Mix Pre 2?
Yeah. So I've Mix Pre 2 with Noise Assist, Countryman mic, and then those are Nanlite Pavo tubes, which fit really nicely. 4 of them, they are magnetized, so they just fit together.
Yeah.
In like a little box, and then some little light stands. And nice. the most technical feature of that is the ice bucket that I use to raise up my.
I see the ice bucket. That's good.
Normally, I pack all this in a 1510. And for some reason I put it in a backpack. I have no idea what got into me. So I did that. And so when I got down there, I was like, oh, right. This is why I take a 1510 is because I can put my laptop on top of it.
There you go.
And so I was looking around the room like,
yeah,
I got to figure this out.
It's interesting. How is the laptop attached to the ice bucket? It seems to be floating.
Gravity. It's gravity. That's how it's attached.
It's really good. It's a really good effect.
And Alex, is Gravity the product name of a $2,000 gimbal?
Probably.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Gravity 2.0.
We know Alex so well.
Very nice. And of course, the 1510 is a Pelican case.
Oh, yeah.
I should probably explain to those of you who are not in the know.
Really a case for Pelicans.
Alex,
it's assumed that you'd use a Pelican case, and we know all the.
Yes.
Well,
which Pelican case is the only question. Yes.
I mean, there's the 1510. The big argument, everyone pretty much knows 1510 for the personal use, but when you get into larger gear, there is a lot of drama between the 1640 and the 1650.
Oh, I bet.
We got into lots of arguments about it. I was a 1640 guy for a long time, but I've slowly learned that 1650s as a larger case is better. I will admit, Brent Schnarr, who might be listening, finally persuaded me that 1650 is the right size for most things.
So, do you leave the pick and pull foam in there and create different? I mean,
usually I pull it all out. You can get good foam separators.
You get these.
Yeah. Those actually work really well, and so you just kind of piece together what you need. And a lot of times I just have it empty and I just throw a bunch of stuff in it.
Pelican. Oh, man.
And then they have an air version.
My standard rollaway carry-on, I think, is the fifth. I think that for a time they made a fifth version of the 1510 that was designed as like for clothing luggage, which only means that they lined the bare plastic with like just enough like felt or whatever so that it doesn't. But that was like the perfect carry-on for me because you can sit on it. It's exactly the size of a legal carry-on, so it's not as though you don't unfortunately put too many socks in the outer compartment. You can't get it up there. And also, but the reason why I bought it specifically was the number of times that I got zorched because I'm sorry, you're going to have to gate check that bag. There are no overheads left. And I'm like, okay, I really did count on. There's like a bottle. There's something in here that I really thought I would have to keep. And the thing is, having this thing that's at least it's a Pelican case. At least that's going to give whatever it is a good chance of being able to actually get through there.
You can carry on the 1510. Can you carry on the 1610?
No. The 1510 is the carry. There's the 1510 for the United States. It's the right size. For Europe, it's a little long.
Yeah.
But it's 22 by 14 by 9 is the size, and it's designed at that size. So the 1510 works well that way. The only problem you get into is that they look at it and they go, I'm going to have to weigh that.
Yeah,
no kidding. Because it's got gear.
Looks heavy. Looks very heavy.
So what we found, I admit that we found that hiding things, especially if we're going to go into a country without carnet, we found that Tumis were the other thing. We would just gut them. Yeah, we would gut them because they would look like regular ones, and inside they have a ton of gear.
So is this the foam separator system you use with the
Tech Track? Yeah, the Tech Track is amazing.
That's pretty cool.
They're really good. Yeah, they're awesome.
Okay.
I can talk about packing all day.
We should do Luggage Weekly
someday. Where's your What's in My Bag video?
Luggage Weekly.
It's time for Mac Case Weekly. Today, the best in over-the-shoulder messenger bags. Are they too trendy or not trendy enough?
Very well. In fact, we probably could sell that show to Spotify. I'm guessing, but
I'm in.
Yeah, exactly.
I just have to go to my closet saying,
Lisa,
what's funny
because of you, Andy. Lisa got me a Filson bag for Christmas last year because of you.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
The funny thing is
I love mine. I've now that I'm finally able to. I bought there are 2 or 3 things that I won't list them, but like that, like I a month before everything went into lockdown and I couldn't leave my house, I bought 2 or 3 things where the mindset was, but I spend so much time like going to Boston, going traveling. I should buy this thing that will great. And the Filson bag, which is not a cheap bag, was one of those things. And of course, it's been just like this beautiful bag has just been parked like in my bedroom for like an entire year. And so now that I'm going out, it's like, I'm only going to be going out for like 2 hours. I'll take the Filson bag and I'll take this light kit and I'll take this other thing. Yeah, I love it. It's a very flexible, very cool bag. Hope you like it.
I have to admit that I have so many bags from my travel, my years of travel, and now a week goes by and I barely get to the garage. So
I can't find my bags
I have to go back and find the bag. I have to go back
where it is.
where did I put all these bags? And there's a pile.
I have no idea how to use cellular on my phone anymore.
I know. It's like I updated my VPN for the first time in like a year on the Mac, and I've been using this Mac for like 6-7 months without having a VPN on it, because it's like, well, you never take it out of the house. Where you need a VPN?
My credit card PIN. I have no idea. Like, how am I going to buy something when the world starts again? I have no idea what it is anymore.
I've gotten used to using FaceTime audio, and the audio is so much better that now I call everyone that way. And then until it breaks down, and then I use the phone. But otherwise, I'm just like, I can't listen to phone anymore. That's horrible.
Oh God, I'm with my people. I love this 2 hours I spend with my people. Thank you, my friend.
We're gonna walk outside.
Well, you understand?
Yeah. We're gonna open up the hatch, Leo. We're gonna go outside and see the world has healed in our absence.
No, it hasn't.
Why did we stay inside so long?
What happened is, like Punxsutawney Phil, we stuck our head out, saw our shadows, and we're back in. We're in for hibernation.
No, we stuck our head out, saw 8,000 people at the lake the Ozarks or whatever.
God, yeah.
And realize that, oh God, we're gonna have to buy more masks, aren't we? Okay.
I'm working on a good. I need to have by the Dune launch. I want to have a good Dune mask. I've been thinking about it all year, and now I've decided.
What would you have?
Still suit.
A still suit?
I'm going to make the. Yeah. No, I'm just going to make the Dune face mask would be a perfect face mask, but you can only really use it right around the Dune launch. So I'm going to try to make one. We'll see.
You need a Bane mask too, Alex.
I have a Bane mask. I have a Bane mask that I bought it because when it first started when the back in the spring of last year, I bought the Bane mask specifically because I wanted to go to Whole Foods and just put the Bane mask on, shave my head, put the Bane mask on, and just walk around going, "Are you looking for the bananas? They're not here." You know,
I was
looking for aisle 8.
Yes. Well, as long as we've gone that far, I might as well show you the new Star Wars trailer. Are you all excited about this? What is it called? Outlands?
Yeah.
Here's the. Wait a minute. Am I going to get sued?
No.
I'll sing public domain songs over it. It'll work.
Star Wars Visions, an original series. I am covering the tweet, okay? Streaming September 22nd at Disney Plus.
Long ago,
so
a great warrior came to visit
under the great black flag.
So they got a bunch of Japanese anime studios to do. 7, not a bunch. 7 different anime studios to do 7 different Star Wars stories in anime style. Yes.
So good.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of cool. Yeah.
This is exactly what I've been hoping for Star Wars.
I'll turn the audio off so we don't.
Let's make sure that all the fans are happy and they see their Easter eggs and they can talk about it. I want people to say, here is a budget of $5 million. You got 5 minutes to tell any story you want that's set in the Star Wars universe.
Isn't that cool? That's a good idea.
The only rule is you can't use any characters that have already appeared. So it's not like, ooh, I want to tell the story of whoever did the coffee service at the Death Star. It's like, no, talk about someone they feel as though they're being screwed over by the Rebel Alliance and by the Empire equally. They don't care who wins because they know their life is going to be terrible either way. That gets my interest real quick.
I feel like this is very much like the Animatrix. You know, where
that's right.
Which was amazing.
Yeah.
Animatrix was really, really good.
It's clear Disney Plus has figured out. If you really just want to keep people paying the $10 a month or whatever, just put Star Wars content out every month.
I feel it. This is great because this will actually tie into something Apple related.
Oh, thank God!
I think that I know. I think that lock-in is an issue not just with Apple, not just with technology. I think that part of Disney's strategy is also lock-in, where it's like, well, rather than encourage people to go out and see another science fiction series because it's animated, what if we create a Star Wars science fiction series that's animated that will keep their money like coming into Disney? What is we can't allow? Yeah, exactly. Well, we're gonna make sure that these customers become Disney theme park customers, Disney cruise ship customers, Disney cinema customers, Disney ice cream customers, and that's broadly the thing that kind of bugs me a little bit about the way that Disney does stuff. Because even when they show me something that I really, really like, I feel as though, oh God, you're just trying to make sure I don't do something stupid like go see the Dune movie because it's not owned by Disney. It's like, okay, whatever.
What I've actually been doing is avoiding the topic of the week. So I think at this point we will get to it. Apple, obviously after last week and the furor over Apple's child porn tracking system, Apple's done some backtracking. They've done some explanations. Renee, can you summarize the response? I know that it's been all hands on deck kind of over the last week. Did they approach you? I wonder.
Yeah. No, but I think like I was doing the sort of like because it was so confusing. I was doing explainers before explainers were cool.
Right.
So I was getting a lot of that done.
It needed a lot of explanation, frankly. It was very
so there was two things. Yeah, there's two big. One, they went on. I think we talked about this already. They went to Matthew Panzarino. They had Eric, who's the head of privacy engineering.
The usual suspects.
Yeah, and then they went to Joanna Stern with Craig Federighi, who's the big gun, the second most recognizable person after Tim Cook. And they're doing what they said is like people are misunderstanding the technology. The only part that still concerns me is that I think Apple still misunderstands the pushback. They think we don't understand the technology. That's why we're upset. And they don't understand that regardless of the technology, we're upset.
Yeah. We don't understand. No, you don't understand.
So what they've said is, he said there's like 30 is the amount of like for the
they've actually clarified a little bit. So now the threshold they say is 30 because they want to bend over backwards not to have false positives. This is
around 30. Yeah. And
how many fingerprints have to be triggered in order for you to be then reviewed by Apple before you go to be reported?
And the other big thing
NCMEC
is the auditing. They say like, and this is all nebulous because who's doing the auditing and what's doing the auditing but they're saying that because there's a single disk image for iOS across the entire world, it can be audited. And if there's any, that the database isn't just from NCMEC, but it's assembled from the convergence of several databases to avoid any spurious results.
That's another thing they added. Multiple national databases will be used. Which doesn't frankly reassure me at all. That's not, how does that make me feel
if you don't want
better?
it on your device, you don't want it on your device. That's the whole part, right?
Yeah.
But I thought that I did listen to the Joanna Stern interview. As typical for a Joanna Stern interview, was excellent. She is awesome. the antithesis of a bozo. I did think that a couple of Craig's arguments were kind of facetious because he was making the point that, hey, there's the reason why our way is better than everyone else's is that like Google scans every photo that comes every photo on their server. We only scan the ones that like you upload to the device. And I'm like, excuse me, but what's the difference? You're still coming into the result where if Google scans the photo after you upload it to this to Google Photos versus Apple scanning every photo but before you send it up to, that's a specious argument. Like it's the exact same result. It's not as though
I don't think anybody really, I don't know, I won't speak for all of you or anybody else, but I feel like, look, everybody else is scanning cloud storage for child sexual abuse material. That's not an unreasonable thing. Dropbox does it, Google does it, Facebook does it. I don't think it's unreasonable for Apple to say, if you're going to store it on our systems, our servers, we're going to scan it first. Fine. Yeah. I think the bigger one, frankly, is looking for nudity in messages coming in.
Or just doing anything on the phone.
On anything
like
on
this
the
has
phone.
been because this is the line.
They felt. I gathered from Craig that they felt like, oh, but don't worry, we're scanning on the phone before we upload to iCloud.
I think that's the case of. Exactly. I think Renee hit it on the head last week when he suggested that I might be extrapolating a bit from what Renee said last week, but I really think that part of Apple dogma is that if you're doing it on device, that makes it intrinsically safer, more secure, more private. And I think this is an occasion where the dogma is having a meltdown when it's faced with reality. The fact that they're doing this thing that no one else is doing, and everybody else, the entire world seems to be okay with the idea of stuff being scanned on a server, on a service, once I've let it psychologically out of my control by making the willful decision to take it off of my private device, this thing that I control, that I can drive a nail through it if I want to do that thing, and saying I'm relinquishing enough control that's saying that I want these services that Google Photos is going to be giving me. I accept that by taking this out of my control, Google can do lots of things with it, including scan it for things, evidence that I might have been conducting a crime, or allowing law enforcement to have access to it if they get the right court papers. It's when the third rail is you're really skeeving me out once you say that there's a form of traffic on your phone that we're going to start scanning on this device, this thing that I'm supposed to be able to control, and you're not going to have it. It basically tears down that sort of brick barrier in our heads between our private device and a cloud service. So I think that it's. I don't think they're doing anything wrong. I just think that they don't understand exactly why this cheeses us off and gets us really, really concerned, and they shouldn't talk down to people about it.
You cannot run the privacy ads that they run. Right. And then get into the phone. Always. Like it's not. We don't have the expectation on a lot of other hardware or a lot of as Apple users. It just undermines the entire marketing that they're doing around privacy to do this. And I feel like there must be some pressure that we're not seeing that required them to make this to do this.
Federici addressed that specifically, saying no, it wasn't pressure. It just took us a while to figure out.
Yeah, he didn't. They should have taken a little while longer and figured it out better.
Yeah. I don't care if a politician goes to a strip club. I care if they've been lobbying against strip clubs and saying, "Ooh, these people who are hooligans and terrible people who go to strip clubs." Just be consistent. Once you try to play the card that I am more righteous than anybody else. Okay, great. Now we're going to be checking your credentials a lot more closely than we would be checking someone who claims to be an ordinary human being. And on privacy, Apple claims to be something other than Google, other than every other entity that transacts business over the internet. I think they're better, but they are still a multi-trillion-dollar company. And so I don't think they can play that card.
And you can be technically right and like morally wrong. Like there's a bunch of people who've looked at this now and said, if you have to implement this solution, this is probably the most privacy-centric way of doing it. But the argument isn't about privacy. Like we get lost in that argument. The argument is about sanctity. Like you're now violating my device. Even if you think you're doing it better, you think it's more private. I will even concede that maybe technologically this is a brilliant piece of engineering. I do not want it on my device. And I did a follow-up video now where I was looking at both those systems, Leo, the one that you were talking about before and this new one. And just like I think if Apple is willing to take a step back and say, okay, we're going to scan and we'll let parents block but not alert, or we don't want CSAM on our servers, but we recognize that we can't violate your phone. So what we're going to do is we're going to just move the photos to a private relay. We'll do the hash matching on a private relay, and then we'll do the envelope verification on the main Apple server. And that way we don't have full knowledge. You have nothing on your device. And this is like the bargain that we're going to strike. But right now it feels like they're unwilling to compromise what they think is better, like technological privacy, and they're forcing us to accept a way worse philosophical privacy and violation.
Is this in Apple's?
It'd be our job to do that.
The problem is this is in Apple's DNA. I'm not asserting, but it seems like this might be a problem in Apple's DNA.
Being our parent?
We know, being a little bit of a nanny. We know better than you.
You're welcome.
And you have to, you're welcome. You have to trust us that we have figured out a way to do this that's going to be private and secure. And just trust us. We know how to do this. And that makes it hard for them to listen to what people are saying. They just dismiss it.
The problem, and again, we're not concerned. The content that they're looking for is very it's defendable that you want to go after that content.
And they've historically done a terrible job of it.
But the problem is that we're afraid that list gets longer. Like that's the thing that I think everybody's afraid of, is that list at the behest of governments, that you've now opened up this little thing that I'm going to now get in there, and this has been the hard line that Apple has had with every government. Like, no, you can't get into the phone. You can't have the phone. You can't. And they said they're going to fight it, but it was just like, why did you go down that path? Like, because now that you've opened it up and people start thinking about it, you're just like, okay, well.
They say we'll refuse any requests.
Sure.
Unless please allow us to please tie our hands by passing a law, because we don't like having to take a stance on anything.
Right.
But if you put in a law saying that we have to scan for pictures of like your president as Winnie the Pooh so that you can round these people up, please, we'd much rather not have to deal with that.
They say it's available only in the U.S., but I don't think that makes a difference. They're saying we have the technology, and we currently are only offering it in the U.S. Doesn't mean that China can't say, well, you're now offering it in China as well.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, their defense against that is that, again, it's a single disk image, and people like, Guy Rambo or will find this kind of stuff, and it'll be detrimental to their existence, or the existential threat to their existence. But for us, it just creates anxiety because it becomes Schrodinger's cat. We can never know. Like, even if they don't do it today, we don't know what they're going to do tomorrow, and that feeling will persist forever. Like, once it happens, we'll know, okay, yeah, our worst fear is realized. But if nothing happens, it's just a case of tomorrow and forever, and that's a terrible feeling to have to live with as just a user of the system.
And I think, Leo, you're right in that. I think that there's a conflict between the amount of credit that Apple thinks it has earned and maybe has justifiably earned in terms of how much trust it's earned from its users, and how much trust people are willing to simply give to, again, a $2 trillion company. Like, I'll speak personally, where there are times where someone will say, I can't believe that Andy's just, how much money did Apple give Andy to say that? Or how much money did he take from Google to switch from the iPhone? And like, well, why would they think I would do that? Like, I think I try to live things above board. But then it's like, well, the thing is, you know that you're a good person. Your mom knew you were a good person. This person doesn't know you from Adam, so you kind of have to make sure that you consistently demonstrate that this is why my opinions are my own. I think Apple kind of falls into that same trap where they don't. It's hard for them to think that the general public is going to think of them as, again, I'm a $2 trillion company that is operating in international markets in a time where it is really, really difficult to operate in Russia, in Turkey, in Iran, in China, in all these other countries. It is impossible for us to simply trust that this technology will never be used in a way that hurts people. But this is the sort of suspicion that we have to have. It's nothing personal, Apple, but this is something you have to really make the case to us with your hat in hand and with a humble attitude. You can't just simply say, imagine the time that someone really, really insulted you and they said, you didn't understand what I said. I'll dumb it down for you, and I agree that I was at fault in not messaging it correctly for people who are not going to understand what I say. It's like, that's not the way to respond to a crisis, Apple.
Erica Portnoy at the EFF said it, I think, very succinctly. Once you've built in surveillance, you can't call that privacy preserving.
Yeah.
So what should to date, Apple has not backed down in any way. They've just given us more information and attempted to allay our feels. So. Yeah, but they haven't said, okay, we won't do that.
We're not doing it yet. Yeah.
I mean, I think that the only thing they could say is, we found. I mean, the face-saving way out of this is we found some technical issues that we're going to have. It's like the charger that never came out. This is the thing that we're still working on it. It'll be out, and then just slowly let it dribble out into the spring, and then just let it disappear.
To be clear,
none of their privacy stuff is shipped on time. Like, every big privacy initiative over the last few years has been delayed at least until January, February, March of the next year.
Yeah. To be clear, there is nothing you can't turn off here.
Right.
Is that right? If you turn off iCloud photo sharing, no scanning of your photos. If you want it to be
a big mess.
Yeah, you can't stop them from downloading the fingerprint database. That's going to be built into iOS 15. So that database, it's just a bunch of hashes, but that database will be on your phone. But you can say, don't scan my photos because I'm not going to use iCloud photos. You have to opt in if you want the parental iMessages scanning, right? So that's not going to happen unless you say yes to it. I guess you can't turn off Siri and search. Is that for everybody, the Siri and search warning, you're about to see nudity? Or is that just for kids?
It's still in the US, but they do that already. Like, they do that for Planned Parenthood. They do that for a vast number of things already.
Yeah. And realize that Google search does that as well. If you have to turn it off, but it will do
safe search.
Safe search.
Yeah, but safe search is it's been so long since I've used it. I think it's off by default, or is it on by default? I don't.
They're always trying to protect you from yourself, and it makes me ducking and angry.
I agree. I hate ducking. That ducking stuff. Yeah. Apple really is an nanny. I'm gonna my pick later is gonna be a new photo app, which I love. And in the terms of service, they say,
I'm gonna follow you right now.
We can't allow you to upload nudes because of Apple. And if we have to build some things into the app that allow you to say, I don't want to see that before Apple would approve it. So we're just going to not allow nudes. And that to me is, I mean, it's a photo app. So there's porno, but there's also legitimate photographic nudity. Right. That to me is a nanny kind of ish point of view on Apple's part that really strikes me as out of date, at least in the U.S.
Sure, but it's a horrible idea. Like I'm just saying, you're getting yourself into a lot of trouble.
To what?
Yeah, I mean,
allow nudes. You mean? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, no. I'm saying they can allow it or not allow it. I'm just saying that functionally as a person, it's a dangerous thing to do. That's all.
Oh, nodes of yourself. You're saying
of anybody. Like yourself, your friends, whatever.
We're all
it is.
born naked. I don't think nudity is anything to be embarrassed by.
Facebook has these huge rot conversations. Facebook has these huge rot conversations about death camps and things like that. But if you show a nipple, they will kill your account. Like it is so weird. Feel like the puritanical overtones of these companies.
Yes, it's puritanical. It's old. It's pretty old. I mean, for Christ's sake, in France, there's a topless woman on their money. It's just, it doesn't seem like nudity is such a big deal. I understand you don't want pornography, but violence, there's no stricture against that. I mean, Apple lets you watch the Suicide Squad on their devices.
Yeah, and the iTunes store is fine, but not the App Store. It's so, sorry, Andy, it's so weird.
Yeah. No, I was just going to quickly say, I mean, this is something that's been on my mind for a while, that how I understand the reasoning saying that, well, we want parents to be able to buy iPhones for their kids without worrying that they're going to be exposed to content that the parent does not think that it's time for that kid to be exposed to. On the other hand, I remember the first time that I walked through Times Square and they had women topless with body paint as part of that retinue of people who will take tips for getting pictures taken. And my first very Boston, my monocle popped up. Oh my, that's not proper. This is a family place. And then like 5 minutes later, I'm like, well, that's just your attitude. Why? If kids were allowed to accept that, look, men can walk along the beach without a shirt on, women can walk along the beach without a shirt on, either because they're cooler and they're more comfortable and because they want to. What kind of a sense of shaming are we creating in female nudity that we're saying that no, it's okay for men, it's not okay for women because that's shameful? And how long would this attitude last in the United States if children could walk through Times Square and not have their eyes shielded from it because there's nothing shameful about it? It's just like there's a naked cowboy in his BVDs.
We were there with Michael when he was 16, and he definitely shaded his eyes from dust.
Yeah, exactly.
But he was much more offended by the Olafs that kept coming over to try to hug him. That really offended him.
We're so bad at this that we will have protests over a mask, but nobody protests having to wear like a pants or forcing women to wear shirts. That's not draconian, but this mask thing, that's terrible. Not like just how might we justify the puritanicalism in our heads?
No, and I have to say we don't allow swear words on our podcasts because we don't want an explicit tag. It's not because of Apple. It's because I early on was told by a number of parents, I listen to this show loud in the house. I don't want to have stray expletives. And B, I want my kid to be able to listen to it, and I want kids to be able to listen to it because I think on the shows, less so with the news shows, but the help and how-to shows, I think kids should be exposed to technology, and if they're interested, parents shouldn't say, I can't let you listen to that. And I don't feel like it adds anything to have expletives. On the other hand, I have no problem with expletives. Yeah. In fact, now that I know that Call Her Daddy is worth $20 million a year, $500,000 an episode.
You're rewriting the code of conduct right now.
It's expletive. It is. She swears every third word, and it's like, oh, I get it. Okay, it's allowed. So it's not something that's going to scare people away.
It's cool.
It's great. It's great because it's your choice. It would be bad if you're not able to put out a podcast.
Exactly my point.
And that's
right.
I do see Apple's decision here The problem is at scale when this is the only place where you can get apps from. And where apps are considered to be creative content, not just simply a functional thing that helps you to hail a cab, I think that becomes a potential problem on society when, again, the one place you can go to get apps for one of the most popular and influential phones in the world will say that there is, at least imply that there is something about nudity that is other.
Yeah.
And we don't, and please, kids, continue to think of nudity as something other than as,
Well, in politics too. I mean, they have all. It's in the App Store has a lot of interesting and I think somewhat antiquated points of view. And the thing about Apple is they have no problem with saying, "This is our point of view, and this is how we're going to do it." And I do think that one of the reasons that the House and Senate have just introduced bills jointly saying you're going to have to open your App Store is because of this a little bit. This sense that Apple is a little draconian in its controls over this. What do you think of that bill? The Senate was Dick Blumenthal, Marsha Blackburn, Amy Klobuchar. But what's interesting is after the Senate introduced that bill, the House on Friday introduced a similar bill. I don't know what the chances of passage are.
Obviously, Apple and Google are not filling the coffers of the campaigns.
They're not paying the right people, are they?
They're not paying the rent because the thing is, if they were paying the rent, they would be treated like the cable industry that is allowed to basically have monopolies everywhere that actually affect communities, actually affect individuals. The reason people now figure out where they're going to go now that we're all moving out of the cities, they're all looking for where is their fiber, where is their connection, and the reason that we don't have good connections everywhere is because Congress protects the telecommunications.
Yeah.
And the thing is,
that's really true. Yeah.
We're fiddling around with this little problem compared to the fact that it affected our students all last year. It affected employees all last year. We were brutalized by the fact that cable companies are allowed to basically not provide pole access. This fix is not expensive. It is literally passing laws, and Congress won't do it because the cable companies give them so much money.
Well,
and so let's be clear.
We know that $67 million in telecom lobbying in 2019 from just Comcast, AT&T, and Verizon.
This is corruption.
Yeah,
like it is. We got to stop talking about little countries and people getting paid and everything else. This is bold-faced corruption. People should stop taking money from the telecom companies because it is impacting every one of us day after day after day. Because we would have 1 gig up and down. We'd have fiber to every house if there was competition. And the thing is, so we but instead, we're going to pay attention to something that is, without a law completely. The reason that they're going down the legal, and let's be clear, these laws are being written by lobbyists. This is not a fight of the little guy because the little guys aren't paying that percentage. This is a fight of big companies and their lobbyists writing laws with these lawmakers. These are rich companies that want to pay less. That's what this fight is. That's who's driving this fight. This is all being driven by a bunch of other rich companies that want to get richer and they want to force it. And the people that are going to pay for this law are going to be the individuals, because as soon as they do the side loading, all these companies are going to say, well, the only way you can have our app is the side load. Like, it's not going to be this, we have to understand as users, this is going to affect us. Yeah, sure. The developers will have more freedom. The users will have less freedom. We're going to be forced to side load if we want to have some kind of content. We're going to be forced to give up our email. We're going to be forced to do so.
I don't understand. I don't get that.
That's expensive.
Because
I don't get what you're saying.
How quickly? Like for now, right now, if I want, because Apple has opened it up and allowed Netflix to have people not buy through Apple, so now I have to go in and I have to give them my email and I have to log in and I have to go to the web page and do all those things. That's inconvenient for me as a user, and what will happen is that there'll be companies like, I don't know if it'll be Netflix, but there'll be companies that say, well, I'm only going to provide this service on, it'll be a really cool service, but you'll have to sideload to have it, because I'm not going to put it in the App Store, and so now as a user, I'm not going to have that. So the thing is that we are going to.
But you don't have it now.
No, there'll be apps that
Fortnite
be clear. People are going to pull apps out of the huge numbers of apps will come out of the App Store to be side loaded.
So
because
I don't think that's going to happen. Netflix is going to have an Apple official app that you'll have to go out of to buy it, and they'll have maybe they'll offer a sideload app.
No, we're not talking about Netflix. We're talking about lots of developers
Little
are going
guys.
to go, well, and medium-sized guys.
Well, doesn't that
and
tell
Epic.
you, Alex, that these companies have a
but
legitimate
we as users have
point
rights too. We have rights.
Well,
we
you
have
don't
rights
have
to not
to-
have to do that, to unsecure our app but now the thing is that we as users should be allowed to, have the experience that we paid for. We as users should have it be easy and secure.
I don't think that's the case. There's only one example on Android that I know of that, which is Epic with Fortnite, and it went so poorly that they abandoned that.
But they blame Google for that.
Well, yeah.
Right.
But so Google, which does have a switch, and I suspect this is going to be what Apple will end up doing if these bills are made law, is they'll have a switch, just like Google does in the settings. It says allow third-party app stores. Apple will have, just as Google does, extensive warnings.
Like Gatekeeper.
Saying, oh my God, you're crazy. You shouldn't be doing this. It's going to be hazardous. You sure you want to do this? And you say, yes, I'm sure. And just like Google, most apps will still be in the main store because most people won't ever turn that on. And that'll solve the problem. And I don't see it. I don't see that being a problem.
OEMs to not have the stuff pre-installed.
Yeah,
it won't solve the problem, but it will at least address the problem by saying, okay, fine, we'll give you the option, we're done. And Apple doesn't even necessarily have to give it equal parity with the App Store. They can do it. They can do a thing where I've always loved the way that Android lets you turn on developer features.
Yeah,
where there's if you haven't seen this, it's not that there's like you go into settings and developer features, switch it on. It's like you go to the about page and you tap the legalese like 7 times. And 5 times it says, okay, 2 more times and you'll turn on developer features. Because they figure that if you know this trick, then you know what where the repercussions are. And it's easy to find.
It kind of is a Konami code, yeah.
Right. But it's not like Apple would do something like that, but they would bury it deep enough so that it's findable if you want it. If you don't want it, it won't trip you up.
Alex's contention is that companies are going to say, oh, good, I can sideload. Let me pull my main app out of the App Store. And just sideload.
I'm not talking about Netflix or Disney.
But that didn't happen on Android. That did not happen on Android.
If they force, this isn't going to be like, oh, you can do it the way Google does it. What they're talking about is really forcing you to have parity, that you have to have access. Because I think that if you're not part of the App Store, you shouldn't get to use Xcode. like literally, that's something that's available. That is code. That is a code base.
Well, you don't have to use Xcode. You can use Dart and Flutter, and you can make a cross-platform app.
Exactly.
Make a command line app. That's going to be just as good.
Yep, that's great. So the thing is that
Apple,
but no libraries, no Xcode.
That's going to be the biggest issue is API access, and I don't know if the lawmakers will talk about that. That'd be interesting.
But the lobbyists will push for it because otherwise it's worthless. And so if they do that, it's fine. I think also, we as users need to seriously think about basically building a community that is that'll defend ourselves. So the thing is that what made the NRA powerful was not money, it was people. And if we start to I think we need to start organizing and making sure that companies know that when they start affecting us and our representatives know when they start affecting us, we can act in unison.
Well, I think you have a hard time getting a majority to say, oh, this is a terrible bill.
I don't need to get a majority. You don't need to get a majority. You only need to turn 10. Like the thing is that 10 people, with the way that Congress works, this is not going to be a unanimous thing. You just need to just make it painful. You just pick, and all you do. I mean, we don't want to get into this, but all you need to do is you pick the weakest ones and you make sure they don't get elected next. You pick off the weakest ones in the flock. And you pound them into the ground.
I don't think you're going to be able to get a strong enough lobby to do that.
Note for show title: pick off the weakest ones and pound them into the ground. And credit Alex with that quote.
Yeah, please. Exactly. Yeah. Well, he's already got the title so far with "I'm Ducking Mad," so I think we might have a double Alex title.
It's Alex. They'll think that he's talking about audio. Like I agree that I think it's the idea of having above audio and like.
The thing is that again, email. I mean, people calling. The reason so.
No, I agree it works, but I don't know if you're going to get a consensus around that because I think there's an equal number of people who say, yeah, Epic's right. Apple should open the App Store.
I think
remember you've got some heavy duty hitters on the other side of this, including Spotify. And Epic, and they're going to pump money into Congress as well, by the way. This is going to be...
Spotify is the one that complains and sues Apple for not providing APIs that they never use and stop using.
Right.
They're pathetic.
But they might.
I'm getting rid of my Spotify.
They might have. Yeah. So you can see how that consumer boycott's going to really change Spotify's mind. I think it's going to be hard. You're going to be hard pressed to build an NRA style lobbying organization around this.
They gave all their money to Call Her Daddy. They can't defend themselves anymore.
They got no money left. It'll be interesting to see. I agree that it's a burden on Apple because you really have to think about how would we do this. I don't know if there's any chance this will pass. We've actually gone back and forth on this. Now that it's both in the House and Senate, I don't know.
Yeah, my own personal dogma, speaking of dogma, is that if you're going to have an imperfect solution either way, be prejudiced towards a solution that gives people more options and more freedom, and then deal with it after.
But that's developers getting more options and more freedom.
No, I don't see why you don't think people get more options as well.
And by the way, developers are people too.
Yeah.
Okay. The number of times I talk to developers who are like, I can't believe the latest piece of BS that I have to go through with Apple to just get my stupid app actually running.
Well, that's
and
the thing. Think about how much we're not getting because of that.
I can't believe that iDOS that was okay once, but then was not okay, but then was okay again, but now is not okay again. I'm saying that. I mean, Apple has to. I believe that the 100% good of this is that Apple has to defend these policies. They can't just say we're just making the best choice for our users and our developers. You're welcome. Next topic. Yes, but what about next topic? You're welcome.
There's actually right now a problem. There's a iPhone keyboard designed for blind users called FlickType that has abandoned iOS to the detriment of blind users because they said Apple is not responding to our issues. They blocked it from the store. Apple rejected the app, according to the developer, arguing the keyboard, quote, doesn't work without full access. He'd appealed it once before 3 years ago. He's appealed it again. Now the developer says, well, it's just, I can't.
I can't. No, literally.
I can't go on.
That's what I keep hearing from so many developers. Not just blah blah blah. It's I just can't anymore. It's like the end. It's like the end of a relationship that you tried to keep going for years because you like this entity and you want to continue. But it's like at this point, I'm done.
Here's the tweet. It is with a heavy heart today that we're announcing the discontinuation of our award-winning iPhone keyboard for blind users. Apple has thrown us obstacle after obstacle for years while we try to provide an app that improves people's lives, and we can no longer endure the abuse. Now, maybe, if you tell me maybe there's something else going on, okay. But, maybe there's a reason Apple
How is this a tweet? And, if it's a tweet, how is there nobody at Apple who's responding to this instantaneously and saying, look, we're going to get, we have Phil on the phone. We're going to fix this right now. Right. Can't believe this. It
doesn't look good. It's an accessibility
casino
feature.
App.
Yeah. Last week, we submitted an update that fixes various iOS 15 related issues and improves the app for voiceover users. No new features, just improvements. No changes to our App Store page either. We were very excited to get this out the door to the hands of our users, but Apple rejected it. They incorrectly argue again that our keyboard extension doesn't work without full access, something they rejected us for 3 years ago. Back then, we successfully appealed and overturned the decision, and this hasn't been a problem since until now. Maybe this, I suspect what will happen is there will be a response from Apple in a day or so saying, oh, that was a mistake. We'll fix that.
Yeah. This developer just doesn't we'll explain it again because these dumb developers don't understand why these features are. We understand. We're Apple. We know everything. You guys are just idiots. We'll dumb it down for you again. You're welcome.
And apparently the keyboard API has not been developed it's barely used and not been developed. Apple does this. Remember, there's one engineer on the remote app,
right?
And he had something else to do for 3 years.
Yeah.
And this seems like one of those things where they announce this as part of all the features, the extensibility features of iOS 8, and this has gotten almost no attention since then, and it's barely used anymore. But this app depends on it, and you have it live in the field, and I get so frustrated.
Our rejection history, he writes, already spans more than 40 pages, filled with repeated, unwarranted, and unreasonable rejections that serve to frustrate and delay rather than benefit end users. And dealing with app review isn't just time-consuming; it's also very emotionally draining. And this is entirely separate from the technical side, where Apple's third-party keyboard APIs are, quite frankly, terrible. Since 2014, keyboard API has been buggy, inconsistent, and ever-changing and broken, particularly when it comes to accessibility features like direct touch. So a third-party app store might be a good solution for somebody like this.
Sure.
Unclear, because it's unclear how much resources they'd have and what ability they'd have to support and maintain it.
Yeah.
But this is another problem, and I've talked to people at Apple and at Google and at YouTube about this, and like I wish that all of them just say it's a big data problem. There's so much user-generated content coming in all the time that we are going to have some apps that are scams that are approved, or some videos that are scams that are approved, and some that are legitimate accounts that are flagged, false flagged, and removed, and we just try to maintain that balance. But there's real human beings on both sides of those extremes, and that just can't be the answer. I don't know what the answer is, because you're dealing with thousands, if not millions, if not billions of things to go through all the time, but it's not working for these people.
Part of the problem is that I don't think it's necessarily one of arrogance or one of stupidity or lack of thinking. I think that a lot of companies, Twitter included, are in the position where, look, when we started this, all we wanted to do was allow developers to create games and nice utilities to extend the functionality of the iPhone. We did not anticipate that in 2021 we would be the gatekeepers to one of the most important cultural access devices on the planet, and we didn't design this ecosystem to allow us to be the cultural gatekeepers. We don't want to be the cultural gatekeepers, and so please don't make us make changes that are going to make things that much.
Well, I understand scaling is a challenge, but then if you can't scale something like the App Store review process, then you need to rethink it.
Also, you're a $2 trillion company. You have resources. You're building cars that you have no announcement of selling. You can do this. Don't tell us that you can't. It's a question of, do you want to?
Well, and I think everyone assumes that finding the right people is an unlimited resource, and it's not. Like finding the right people to look through it that are technically capable of doing this.
My point is
not. You can have a lot of money, but it doesn't necessarily
scale. Got it. So maybe we need a new model, because you have to scale because you're that big now.
You don't have to scale. Like, you don't have to. You can just say we're going to go as fast as we're going to go.
I guess that's what Apple's chosen. It's like, well, this doesn't scale, so too bad. We're just going to, we'll make mistakes. We'll continue to make mistakes. And if you don't like it, there's a whole other platform that is equally or much larger than the Apple platform that worldwide. It is a majority. If you don't like the way Apple's doing it, go somewhere else. Apple doesn't have to do this. They shouldn't have to do it. It is something that these companies, all these little companies, they wouldn't exist without them. So the thing is that it is arrogant to talk about.
A lot of these companies existed without the App Store before the App Store existed.
But the vast majority of the one, like Facebook, would not be nearly what it is today without a phone. It was a little, it's not nearly, and so the thing is that they wouldn't be the same size that they are now, and many of them wouldn't exist. There's many
Wasn't
things
that
on the
Mark
App Store that wouldn't
Arment's
exist.
complaint, though, is that Apple acts as if we add no value.
Yes.
Apple acts as if these apps, we're the lodestar for everything, and we just allow you to use our platform for your apps, but you don't add any value, really.
Well, I don't think WWC would exist if they didn't add any value. Apple has a massive team that is there to support developers, to make sure that they're successful. I mean, I've interacted with that team multiple times.
Is it possible that Apple, with its shift to looking at services as a revenue generator, has become too dependent on App Store revenue and is, as a result, very unwilling to change things because now this is a big part of their bottom line?
It's definitely got to be a factor. No, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, but there's a better model for Apple. It's not necessarily better for the developers, which is to go down the Apple Arcade route, which is we're just going to pay developers and people pay a subscription. I mean, so developers should be careful about how hard they make this for Apple.
That's an interesting idea. Apple basically owns everything.
Apple just starts, if you look at Kingdom Rush, they have Kingdom Rush, which is my favorite game, and then they have a Kingdom Rush now that they built for Apple that was paid for by Apple and put into the Apple Arcade, and so and I think that so Apple is experimenting with a model that could work in many places, and so you could end up with Apple just saying, well, you could just pay a subscription and these are the apps that we start developing, and they don't have to get rid of the App Store, but you could start, if this becomes really complicated, Apple could just have something that you're just putting stuff into the subscription.
The Apple boutique and then the flea market off to the side.
Yep.
Oh, that's a really interesting. I wouldn't mind that. That's a great idea. And most people would just go with an arcade style app store.
Oh yeah,
most people would. But at least there'd be an opportunity, a sideload opportunity. I don't know. Maybe. I don't. Is that a bad?
Gatekeeper. That's the Mac, right? It's like Gatekeeper on the Mac.
Gatekeeper. You say it'd be horrible.
No, it'd be horrible for independent developers because it'd just be hard to get. It'd be hard to get critical mass again. If you're, the thing is that if you're a certain size company, you can talk about sideloading and everything else. As an independent developer, the fact that you can download a free app, get help, put it together on your own, publish it without having to figure anything out, that they're going to handle the protection of it. They're going to handle the order. They're going to handle, all of that stuff being handled for you, an infrastructure, essentially a web page, like all of that. Like that's what we're not talking about. So for medium-sized companies,
we're not talking about is that Apple has driven the price down for apps to the point where if you have an app that deserves to be $100 or $200, you're just not going to put it. You're not going to do it on a mobile, right? You have to do Affinity Photo. You can't charge more than $30 for it, even if
I know developers that are making good money at $50 apps on iOS.
Yeah, but that's kind of the limit.
Sure, but you're also when I sold software, I knowingly had software that I knew that was being pirated 100 to 1. So sure, I am selling it at $200 a unit.
Yeah, you don't have to worry because
I don't. But
there's no piracy on the App Store.
Yeah, so I could have sold it for $20, or half or whatever. I could have sent out 20. I could have sold DB Mat for $20 a copy if I knew that it wasn't being pirated. And all of that stuff. I would have handed that management off in a second for 15%, which is what I paid. I never made $1 million a year on it. So the thing is that Apple would have been a godsend for that. To put that together.
Right.
Well, I think that's the lens. As a developer, that's the lens I look through. Is that it would have been a lot better if I had
It's a model that is definitely good for some large number of developers, obviously, right?
Most.
Well, not most, because there a lot of apps also appear on Android, which is not as.
No, I'm saying most developers on the iOS. I mean, remember we say 30% are upset, so 70% are happy with what they have. So most developers are happy with what they have.
Boy, 70%. You cannot hold on to a dictatorship if you're only making 70% of the people happy, unless you have a lot of control over the remaining 30%. And you don't. Apple is not a company that wants to say that, oh well, we have our users because they like our quality, they like our point of view, they like our design, not because we have 30% of our users because they have absolutely no choice on what the hell they're going to do about it.
There's also, I mean, just the realpolitik of the matter is, at some point, Apple's is going to be under a lot of pressure.
Yeah,
in some way to accede to the demands of Congress, the FTC, and the EU.
I feel as though this is inevitable in some fashion, that Apple has got to already have a plan for how they would, for lots of different ways that this could play out, and all the different ways that they would incorporate support for third-party apps if they had to. Because I do think that this is where the rock slide is going, for good or for ill. And I think that part of Apple's strategy going forward is to argue it so long. If they can keep this thing tied up as long as they possibly can, they can negotiate the best terms they can possibly get, at least in the United States.
Now's the time, anyway. Yeah.
And they would much rather not have to localize. They're fighting a battle on so many fronts. I feel a little bit sorry for them that they're facing a potential world in which they're going to have to provide a localized version of iOS for every single market that they operate in, because governments they sense blood. Yeah. They sense the ability.
It's the price of success, though. Google's got the same problem. All these big tech companies are facing this. This is the price of success.
They were going to unify the world, Leo, and now we're fragmented across every single region.
I know. Yeah. All right, let's take a little break. Come back. We got more to talk about.
There is some breaking news, Leo.
Yes.
There is some breaking news. So two things. We can talk about it after the break, absolutely. But one, Apple has pushed out a new beta, and there's two really interesting things. One is they've redone the Safari address bar again, and also given you a toggle to put it back where it used to be. And they've also announced that SharePlay won't be shipping with iOS 15, but will be in a future update later in the fall or later.
Oh, this is good. Well, we'll talk about it when we come back. Renee Ritchie, youtube.com/Renee Ritchie, Andy Ihnatko, WGBH from officehours.global, On the road, Alex Lindsay. You know, it'd probably be cheaper, Alex, instead of getting a Pelican case, if you got maybe a Pelican RV, and you just drove down everywhere. And
I'm just waiting for someone to give me the electric vehicle that is just a box that is the right that's the maximum size I can fit in there.
Pick and pluck in the RV.
Just a big I want a big box. I want a big box with a monitor on the end, with an exercise bike that folds out, with a bed that folds out, and a desk that folds out. And so then the idea is, and it opens the door. My wife was like, and where would you put the windows? I'm like, nowhere.
Windows.
I wouldn't put the windows anywhere. Like,
we got screens.
I just put screens up. I have it, and I can work. And if I want to take a nap, I can take a nap. If I want to exercise, I can exercise. Yeah. And then I get to LA, and how fast it goes, if it takes an extra hour, it's fine. I
think your wish will come true in the next
I think we're going
100 years for sure.
I think in the next 10.
Maybe the next 10. Yeah. You know, it's funny. I just saw an article that says Waymo's got 99% of self-driving down. It's that last 1%.
Yeah, well, and the thing is that if you just say it'll work, the problem that Waymo has, and the problem that some people, when you go to 100%, is if you just said it'll only work on highways, they all kind of work that way.
That's what I get. So
if you just
Ford is doing that, and GM does that now. The Blue Cruise, and that's the idea. Yeah, just highways. I'm actually, I'm going to get that soon on my car. I'm very interested to see, compare it to the Tesla.
That in our lifetime, probably by 2035 or 2040, we'll probably see roads that you're not allowed to drive on. Like a human's not allowed to touch the car. Like you have to literally you have to be disconnected, because it can be much more efficient, safer, and faster if you just stop touching it.
According to Bloomberg Business Week, the problem is traffic cones. The 1% is traffic cones. Anyway, let's take a little break. Our show today brought to you by AT&T Active Armor. We rely so much on our phones these days, and we're always on them, whether it's live streaming content or catching up with family on weekly video calls. I do that every Thursday. Maybe listening to or watching, your favorite podcast. The last thing you want to do is get interrupted by fraud calls. There's no room. Thankfully, AT&T makes customer security a priority, helping block those pesky calls. It's not complicated. AT&T Active Armor, 24/7, proactive network security and fraud call blocking. Hallelujah, to help stop threats at no extra charge. Compatible device and service required. Visit att.com/active armor for details. Thank you, AT&T, for your support of Mac Break Weekly. All right, breaking news. We need a breaking news sound. Bum, bum, bum. Renee Ritchie.
Yes.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Well, that's good. Sounds like a didgeridoo. Breaking didgeridoo. Go ahead.
Didgeridoo. Yeah, so the latest update for the beta for iOS 15 has come out, and it's got two changes. One is Apple's continuing to improve the UI for the on-the-bottom address bar in Safari, and they're now making it less, because one of the problems was it would interfere. I'm going to back up for a second.
People were so pissed off about what Apple did with Safari.
But they were actual usability problems, because a lot of developers had learned to put things at the bottom of the screen because Apple's Chrome took up the top of the screen, and then Apple moved to the bottom, and the address bar would cover important parts of the website you needed to use. And so now Apple, previously they integrated it with the keyboard, and now they're integrating it even more, but they're giving you a switch that you can flip to take you back to ye old days of top-mounted address bars if you so choose.
Here's Frederico Vitici's tweet. We did it, everyone. Hey, with Apple, you got to take your victories where you can. So what is it?
He's Ozymandias going, we did it.
We did it. So you can now put is it a switch, or is the developer control?
It's a toggle in settings.
In settings, not the website, just the user. So you can put that
address bar. Which is like the antithesis to Apple, because they're supposed to have strong opinions loosely held. They're supposed to make these decisions to unburden us of the need of options. And now they're giving you, again, one of these Like when iOS 7 came out and nobody could read it, they put a bunch of options in accessibility to make things bolder and easier to read, instead of just making the whole interface easier to read. Now you're getting an option to revert Safari instead of just reverting Safari. But small victories.
I wasn't really. I mean, I saw all the upset, but I didn't. Not being an iOS 15 user, I didn't really experience the thing. And I have to say, looking at Federico's screen capture, having that address bar at the bottom really is kind of not so good.
It was also worse because there were so many controls there and so many collisions. Like you have to tap so precisely to edit the address bar, or you'd reload it, and everything was 2 or 3 taps away that used to be just exposed. And there was this, I think there was this mistake, again, we're going to go back to the same discussion previously, where Apple thinks less is simplicity, even if it requires more. And being bereft of things, being Spartan is not simplicity. Usability is simplicity. And that sometimes means exposing the most obvious and important controls. Even if it looks like it's more cluttered, it's more usable, and that's the more important part.
Yeah,
you're right. That was the fault. That was, for me, was the failure of the first redo of the user interface for iOS. That it was so stripped down that you would look at the screen. I would look at the screen for like seconds, thinking that, okay, what do I tap to do the thing that I want to do?
That's still
now?
a problem.
Whereas
really.
sometimes, whereas what I liked about the material interface design on Google was that they've actually flipped that on its head, saying that there will be a big, round, colorful button at the bottom right of the screen. That is the thing that you are probably going to want to touch, to post a tweet, to reply to an email, to do something like that. So yeah, it's I would. This is why I really wish that Apple would allow their their internal developers and designers to occasionally blog, because I would love to hear like what the real decision making process was about that. I know I joke about Apple being arrogant, and to a degree they certainly are, but I know that they don't just do something like that on a whim. But it's such a big deal saying, okay, every single other web browser puts the address bar at the top. Even mobile browsers put it at the top. We're going to put it at the bottom because why? Everybody else is doing it wrong? Or because sometimes it's brilliant, but sometimes you realize that the reason why an airplane has 2 wings instead of like a 3rd wing at the back is because the ones with the 3rd wings, they crash. They try them. They don't work.
They do. That's
why they all look the same.
You can find WWD sessions. Like I remember when iOS 7 came out, Mike Stern, who's the graphics developer evangelist, did a brilliant 1-hour-long talk deep diving into the incredible logic they had and thoughtfulness behind everything. It didn't make it more usable, but like I understood. And I have not found one yet for the Safari address bar.
Paul Haddad,
I've been looking.
Paul Haddad tweets, sanity. There's apparently a setting now to take the tab bar from the bottom and put that up at the top as well. There is, Steven Sinofsky, who was responsible for Office and later Windows at Microsoft, has left since. Sometimes you find out decades later, he did just post a blog post on how Clippy happened.
Right, yeah.
Which is really interesting to read, especially the part where he talks about Bill Gates' reaction to Clippy. He said... Let me see if I can find the. Oh yeah, I don't know if I should say it out loud. Bill Gates called Clippy an effing clown, and I really want
to. Hey boss, how did the review of the CEO go? We're gonna have an all hands.
Apparently, this was a common thing with Bill Gates, where he would be very combative sometimes with product managers, and you had to stand up for yourself. But apparently, there's a whole dialogue.
It does appear that people ignored Bill Gates a lot more.
Apparently, they got away with it because Clippy happened.
I think that there's a lot of things
you're complaining
where you
about
heard,
Clippy. Can I help you?
Yeah, well, it looks like there's stories that come out that Bill Gates was like, I hated that. I hated that.
Jobs would win
idea.
every time.
Jobs would fire you.
Yeah.
I mean, Jobs would be like, lose iTunes for Windows, but the things he lost were good things.
Yeah.
I think it's Jobs' propensity to fire people that disagreed with him too much. Like, I think arguing is fine, but I think there was definitely like a level of, you got to go.
Hey boss, how'd the feature review go, and why are you carrying everything from your desk in a cardboard box? Answer the second question first.
It's on his. I think it's on his Learning by Shipping blog at Medium, if I can find it. But essentially, there's a back and forth between Gates and the product manager, in which he says, and then the effing clown comes out and tells you, what do you want to do? And apparently there were a whole series of Microsoft programs for kids designed this way, where instead of using a UI, you would have an interrogation with a character who would it'd be the same thing as if you picked those menu items. But I guess they thought it was an easier way. Back in the day, people didn't really understand, I'm afraid, how things worked. So
they didn't appreciate the genius.
Well, again, they have to,
we now understand computers a little bit better.
You don't change the design of the steering wheel, even if you do have a better design, because this is what people absolutely intuitively understand. It works.
Model S Plaid is sitting right there, Andy.
Yeah, exactly.
Here.
Yoke.
Here it is. So in early discussions, we attempted to explain how we had learned from the abysmal failure of Microsoft Bob, and we had a plan. At one point, the conversation turned from stepping through a complex task in Excel to Bill Gates bringing us to tears and playing back what he heard. It went something like this. Demo. The assistant will then appear and offer each step in sequence to create a chart, as the user interface does today, but it will be more friendly and approachable and have easy access to help content. Bill. So when I want to create a chart, the clown will pop up and say, I'm here to help. And it's not a clown, Bill. It's an assistant. The clown pops up, and then I'm like clicking on the clown, saying, clown, next, clown, next, or something, just to create a chart. Bill, the assistant is just a more approachable and helpful version of the same number of clicks and steps you always had. Next. And pretty soon, I just want the effing clown to get out of the way. Apparently, his voice.
Story of my entire teenage years. Thank God someone has articulated it so well.
The pattern, complete with the escalating, high-pitched, frustrated Bill G voice, would make an appearance. I lost track of how many times he ridiculed the feature this way. Still, he doesn't get the right to stay. I told you so. Here's a example of Microsoft Fine Artist, which was for kids, where you have a character called McZ saying, hi, Stevie. Would you like to start a painting, make a comic strip button or sticker, or put together a picture show? Maybe you'd like to learn some drawing tips, or copy, delete, or clean up paintings. I'm glad we're away from these nanny apps.
Yeah.
But in the early days, I think the thought was, no, people don't know how to use computers. We've got to help.
True. They did have a point there. This was still the point where a lot of the people using computers were being forced to use computers because people who knew about the technology were incorporating it into workspaces. So now things are being more tightly automated, more tightly computerized. And there were people that, the joke about, hey, it says press any key, but I can't find a key marked any. That's not a joke. There would be people who would say, I don't see a key that's marked that way. So a little bit. It was a dumb idea, but it wasn't as though the intentions weren't merited.
Yeah. And of course, Bill did marry the product manager of Microsoft, Bob. True. So
that's your punishment.
That's your punishment.
This was such a bad screw up.
Yeah. You know what? I'm gonna marry you.
I'll show you. The world would be such a different place.
So sometimes you do, but get the story behind some of these things. But unfortunately, it's usually long after the person who knows left the company.
He's a treasure, though. He's a must follow. He has so many really.
He wasn't a treasure when he was at Microsoft, I must say.
No.
It's good now.
Since he left Microsoft, got an iPhone. He's been tweeting with it. He's
much more interesting.
So much more insightful.
So iPadOS beta 6 for the public usually next day or a day or two later usually.
Usually like 2 or 3 days.
We're getting pretty close now to the final.
Big problem. Like that's the big problems on developers, and if it's fine, everybody else gets it.
Right. So here is Apple's post on the beta 6 release notes. It's right. It doesn't make any sense if you're not a developer. It's all about stuff. Yeah. But good. So fix at least to Safari, which it just shows Apple does listen. If you complain loud enough.
It's not bad. I mean, a lot of the things they test out, and some of the stuff is great. Like my classic example is the 12-inch MacBook. They made a non-mechanical touchpad, and they made a butterfly keyboard. One of those things is amazing, and we still use it today. And one of those things had to die by fire. But you got to experiment. You
try it.
It's got to fail fast and fix it. Yeah,
put it out there. See what people say. I think that's fair. Yeah, this is a beta after all. That's the whole point.
Exactly. Yeah. No, and I'm glad that they're doing live fire exercises of some of these ideas too. that it would be bad if they just simply did something. They had a test group. The test group didn't like it, so they canned it. As opposed to, no, we'll take the heat. We'll spend the time in the dunk tank if we have to. This is interesting enough that we want to see how people like it. And for all we know, the consensus inside Apple was that this is a bad idea, but people are making a good enough case for it internally that it's worth at least the people who have volunteered to say, close your eyes and taste this.
Yeah. So apparently there was something people did like. I don't know what it is, called SharePlay. They're not going to. They're not going to put that out. They took it out of beta 6. So what is SharePlay, Renee?
That's the feature where if you're on a FaceTime call with somebody on your iPhone or iPad, you can choose to share like a TV Plus, or other companies can choose to embed this too. So like Netflix, so you can watch or listen to something together, and also like you can put it on your Apple TV and watch or listen to it together. It was a very 2020, 2021 friendly feature. It just sounds like it's not fully baked yet, and so it's going to come like a month from now or 3 months from now.
SharePlay, Apple says, will be disabled for use in the initial releases of iOS and macOS and tvOS. But it will be enabled for use again in future developer beta releases, and will launch to the public in software updates later this fall.
I have to admit, I saw that and I was like, wow, that looks like it's really hard to do. And turns out it might
turns out it is. Yeah, you were right. You were right. What's so hard about it?
It's just a lot of it's a lot of communication between the devices to keep everybody synced. Syncing lots of devices together is never trivial. You know, they're all on their own little clocks, and then you have the latency of Wi-Fi, and you have the latency of all these other things, and keeping them all doing the same thing that they're supposed to be doing at the same time is a big deal. Like, it's not, there's nothing trivial about that problem. And so when you start going, hey, we're just going to make it work, and it's going to be easy, and you're going to be able to do this thing, it's incredible engineering to get that to work. There's also a reason it hasn't existed until now.
Yeah.
Like what happens, because all this stuff is DRM'd content, and every provider had their own options. Like it could send you the thing and say, oh, you have to subscribe in order to do this SharePlay, or it could send it to you and say, okay, you get this one free, but you got to pay for the next one, or you get 2 weeks free if you watch this, but then you've got to pay out. And designing all those experiences and making them understandable to people, I think, is a big challenge too.
There's a lot of parts, a lot of moving parts. Apple iOS 14.7.1, which came out a few weeks ago, it solved the Apple Watch unlock bug and fixed a 0-day. Some users are saying is causing a no service message from their carriers. I don't know how widespread this is. Widespread enough that it's made the news anyway. Users are saying restarting the phone, removing the SIM, even resetting network settings did not fix this. So I don't know. I haven't experienced it, but I guess some people are.
Yeah.
So
the user base is so big now, and the amount of variables that everybody has on their device is so big now that it seems like every time there's an update, some people get better Wi-Fi, some get worse, some get better Bluetooth, some get worse, and that's not an excuse. It's just like it's butterfly effect. This uncertainty principle is just so complicated now.
Yeah. Apple has lost a wireless patent suit. We reported last week they'd won a big decision. Now they've been told to pay in Marshall, Texas, same old place, Panoptis Patent Management and its Optus Cellular and Unwired Planet units a award of $300 million in royalties. This was a retrial, a second trial. They were originally ordered to pay $506 million, so I guess you could consider that an improvement. Rodney Gilstrap added again. U.S. District Court judge said the jury should have been allowed to consider whether the royalty demand was consistent with FRAND. So they thought it over again. Optus was trying to get $7 billion. So
I remember this is the beginning because it still has to be appealed. Which I wish the appeals courts would just go, "Hey, it came out of East Texas. We're just going to throw it out."
Yeah, no kidding.
Like we're just like if they just started doing that, if they just started throwing them out, like not even like we don't want to listen to anyone. We'll listen to you talk for a little while, and then we're going to throw it out because it came from that location. We would probably find more sanity.
Optus is, as they say, a non-practicing entity, but they got the patents from Panasonic, Samsung, and LG originally. That's who had the original patents. So there you go. Optus says Apple had refused all fair offers and has accused the company of being an unwilling licensee. We didn't license it. We didn't want to license it. We don't need to license it.
We just want to sue. We created it to sue. Why are you interfering with our sole purpose in life?
We're here to sue.
There was this really great, Andy knows this, there's a really great comic strip by Grant Morrison, All-Star Superman, where there's this living bomb and Superman tries to save the world. He's like, you're interfering with my right to exist as a bomb, to unlive my potential, to be all that I can be. How dare you stop me in this way? And that's what it sounds like these people are doing.
You could be a bomb. Just be a bomb on Mars. How about that?
Yes, exactly. I think that was the actual solution.
Oh, yeah. There you go. Yeah, Superman said, fine. No problem. Let's see what else. We're going to take a little break, come back and talk about Apple TV. If you're a Ted Lasso fan, get ready. I don't want to steal anybody's pick or anything.
Nope.
Apple TV talk. Apple's released a Ted Lasso sticker pack for iMessage and Clips. You got Believe, the sign, you got a soccer ball, you got a Football is Life scarf, a couple of pictures of Ted and some of the other cast members too, which is nice. I hear that this guy, I can't remember his name, is a big part of season 2.
Yeah. I just want an animated thing of Ted Lasso's Cabbage Patch dance.
If you go to the Apple Store, you might be able to get a sticker pack, an actual physical sticker pack.
I just wish they weren't so
awesome.
branded. Like the animated GIFs and the stickers, everything just has Ted Lasso on it, and it takes me out of the moment. You know, it's
just his head. You don't have to put the name on it.
We can recognize Ted Lasso and know his name.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's an excellent point.
It's like if every Baby Yoda sticker had Star Wars on it. They don't. Like, just relax.
When HBO Max launched, it was in every respect a mess. A mess. Nobody could figure out what it was. Do I get it for free? Who do I get it from? But not to mention the fact that the app was really not very good. Apparently, HBO Max is working to update its app on the Apple TV and everywhere else. So if you are suffering through the HBO Max app, some subscribers,
there are some.
The content's great, but you couldn't fast forward very well or rewind. And
there are a bunch of big media companies that, like, not at the developer level, they're all angry about this, but there's some product managers who decide that making it easy to cross-port is the number one priority, not making it the best experience.
Don't make a
so
native
they will
app.
use their OpenGL app. They'll use their TVO, like whatever they've compiled for TV. And like the Amazon app is horrible. The YouTube app varies between states of horribleness, but you can easily tell what's a native app and what was like the worst TV, like smart TV app that they could possibly put on the platform.
Yeah, because I always feel like the YouTube TV app, I think that they make it hard to scroll just so you can't go through the ads because it's just so painful. Like you're like it's just easier to watch the ads than it is to like try to find the other end.
You couldn't move tabs on the original Apple TV controller. It would skip 8 tabs anytime you twitched on it. It was just
But isn't it funny that now like Apple and the Apple community knows what it's like to be like BlackBerry like a few years after the iPhone took over? Because like you realize that you're like this platform is all Roku and it's all Amazon as far as streaming devices go. You realize you're making us wanting to do a whole lot of work for a tiny sliver of the market. You'd be happy we even have an app.
Intolerant sliver. Andy, we're an intolerant sliver.
We're used to getting our way, except for getting our way when we talk to Apple. But otherwise, we're used to getting our way.
So anyway, I guess it'll get better. What's the content you like, Alex, on HBO Max? What are you watching?
Oh, you always, if I don't have it in front of me, I can't remember what it is.
We watched The White Lotus, and don't watch it. It's terrible. It's very disappointing.
I think I'm surprised at how often I'm at HBO Max watching something.
So good.
Doom Patrol?
Yeah. Is that like Rat Patrol? No, it's a DC Comics. It is a superhero, technically, let's say parahuman series, but it is so niche. It's not about like, let's introduce this thing that's going to become a movie. It really is about personal stories about 5 people who were turned into freaks by circumstance and by science and whatever, and are just trying to figure out how to live their lives. And they're just episodes that are like, oh man, I'm very happy they're not being attacked by whoever on whatever dimension and whatever reality. it's okay to just have them be an episode where they're in the mansion and they're just
superhero
they don't want to leave.
Superhero
angst. Not angst. It's about people, right? It's about people fighting their own internal battles, and that's always
it ain't easy being a superhero. You guys, you don't appreciate how hard we work.
Yeah.
Also based on Grant Morrison, like All-Star Superman. He's a really good writer.
All right. I'll have to. Okay, good recommendation. I mean, that's part of the problem with the app. You can't find anything. So even the thing you're watching, it's like you have to. I know I'm watching this show. Why don't you show me the next episode, please?
Also starring Brendan Fraser.
Oh, I like him. Yep. Yeah. He's aging a little, which is nice. He plays Robot Man.
Brendan Fraser.
Yeah.
He really is like a Gene Hackman sort of actor, where he's going to be good in his 20s, he's going to be good in his 30s, 40s, 50s.
He used to be 70s. A hunk, right? And now he's like
F-bombs, Leo. Just forewarning, they just dropped F-bombs with Wanted Abandoned.
Oh, I don't mind that. I've heard
Grant Morrison.
I've heard it before. Bloomberg, Apple TV's Mark Gurman even. Apple TV's box is now mostly pointless. This is from his Power On newsletter, which is getting a lot of play. It's clearly a big hit. He says it's lost its purpose as content moves to more devices. It's a little expensive, yes. It's about twice as much as what everybody else offers.
The phone wasn't going to work. The Apple is, they're a little, and currently, sure, it's not that competitive when most of the content is pretty low grade from a technical perspective.
Well, you don't even need it anymore to watch Apple TV. So,
yeah, I mean, so here's the thing. Like, as someone who develops content for all these devices, who streams to all these devices, the Apple TV is 10 times better than everybody else.
Yeah.
So
how about the NVIDIA Shield? Do you get any feedback from that? Because that's also
we don't have any users.
Yeah.
So we don't have. I mean, we don't. Yeah. I don't see it. So the main thing is like when we want to develop really high quality content. I'm not talking about the schlock that you get on Netflix or HBO or whatever. Like I'm not talking about the content. I'm talking about the video quality. When we go, hey, we want to put something up really nice and we just want it to work, you just want it on the Apple platform. Like the rest of them are just worthless. And so the thing is they're so hard to deal with. They can't read the manifests. They can't do all this other stuff. They can't, and so the Apple just works. And you want to keep watching how often Apple says high frame rate. HFR, high frame rate. They're giving it a name. They're not talking 120 frames per second, but you want to notice that the Pixel, the high-end Pixels are 120. Samsung's going to 120.
That's interesting.
Every TV we make is 120. And when you turn up the dial, and right now with 5G, you'll be able to turn the dial up. You can't, and with fiber and people getting faster connections, you'll be able to turn that dial up. I will say, as someone who spends a lot of time looking at it 120 frames a second, that it changes the way you look at everything else, and so the thing is that I believe that there is going to be some point where Apple starts developing content. And so having Apple TV Plus, and having 120 frame, having some content coming out, and most likely the areas that we think are the most interesting are concerts, sports, and horror films, of all things, because it really scares you. So because it's basically in HDR. At 120 frames per second, you have a window in your house into something else. Like your brain looks at it differently than it does at 60 or 30 or 24. Now, I wouldn't create features this way because it actually, I find that features at 120 make me really uncomfortable. And so there's
great for
my brain
documentaries.
Says,
great for sports.
You can see the makeup. Yeah. Like you can see the makeup. It's
that's why.
No, I'm talking about resolution.
When Ang Lee did Billy Lynn's long halftime mark, he didn't have the artists wear makeup, which was even more disturbing.
And I'm not talking about
you don't
resolution.
Want to see these people with their real faces.
High frame rate, like in The Hobbit at high frame, when you watch it at 30, like it seems like a fantasy. When you watch it at 60, everything is so instant. Like you can see, like that's not a nose.
Yeah, there's actual science. There's actual science behind this. That at a lower frame rate, particularly at a film frame rate, it actually turns the brain switches into a different cognitive mode that makes you more accessible.
Possibly
for fantasy,
because we've been trained to that.
Right. So I don't think that it's good for everything. But again, I think that horror films are going to be at 120 are going to be really scary. And
because they're very real.
I guess it's going to, so realism, documentaries, sports, concerts.
It's great for documentaries.
I mean, and concerts and sports. I mean, I got to tell you, when you watch, there's so much fast moving things going on. I watched some baseball at 8K 120, and it's just like you're there, like you are there. And there's some point we found that between 90 and 120 frames per second, that something in your brain like goes click, and it's a different, it just now looks like a window, and people can talk about, and, there's been patents that have already been done for 240, 480, these higher frame rates are going to keep going because it's going to create that. But I think from a practical perspective,
is there a limit though? Does it get much better after 240?
I think you get it's so much effort over 120.
I think 120
is not
sufficient.
worth it.
120 is
so
fine.
I don't think it's.
They did experiments, and 480 is the barrier for human perception. They did a bunch of green
so you
LED
could go up
flickers,
to 480.
and over 480 humans can't tell anymore.
Okay.
But
this is completely consistent with what Andy just said, which is if we want to be in a suspended state of suspended disbelief, a dream state, make it dreamy. But if you want to think you're actually at the ball game.
But if you look at like Small World that Apple does, that Small World at 120 frames per second would be amazing.
Because you'd think you were in the plant.
Right.
But we're getting off the point. I think that's great, but Apple can't sell one of the most expensive streaming boxes on the market today on the basis that someday in the future, undetermined, there will be high frame rate video that maybe you will enjoy. And if Apple knows that this is a market in which you can walk into Walmart with $25 and get a very competent streaming device. You can walk into any other store with $50 and get a very good streaming device. And for the amount of money that you would spend on an Apple TV, you can get a computer that can act as a server for all of your media and can stream games and can do all these other great things. And so Apple needs to make something that's competent for people who are walking to a store with $50.
Well, in a way they are by putting Apple TV on Samsung TVs.
Yeah, they do. And so
that's
what will happen
answer to that.
And what will happen is in the manifest. In the manifest, we'll just tell you if you're going to not to an Apple TV, give you 30. Like here's 30 frames a second. Enjoy. And
you moron.
But again, no, it's fine. And again, the point is that the problem is that you have to control the reason that everything works on Apple products. And this is not because when we're talking about 120, we're not talking about the Apple TV. We're talking about the iPad, the Mac, all the Macs, all of the phones, everything being at 120. It's a big market that can theoretically watch this. And the main thing is that the Apple TV is one of those, and it needs to be part of that ecosystem because we're going to go, hey, we really want to watch this great video on our TV, And so the thing is that so Apple, by controls that, they're able to develop it, and they're able to not be basically kneecapped by the cheap television makers who are trying to shave pennies off of it, and so they won't put the extra chipsets in. They won't do all the other things.
Is it a mistake for Apple to offer something? Branded Apple TV on those cheap sets? It's a mistake.
As someone who streams to it, I hate it.
Yeah.
Like I think both are important. Like I think both are actually important. Like for a long time, I wanted a low-end Apple TV, like not an Apple TV Shuffle, that'd be horrible, but an Apple TV Nano, where you just plug it into the back like a Google Chromecast.
That's actually what
because
Kermit
it felt like there was
this
huge
a $50 4K
yeah,
stick.
I mean, like we've been calling on that. We've been calling on that for 5 years. I mean, that's lowest hanging fruit at this point. Right. But I think Apple addressed that with doing the Samsung TV app and doing the smart TV apps. And what they have right now is something that really serves their core prime audience, which is also people who like. I was surprised when I turned it on last year and all those ad tracking things popped up to see all these TV apps wanted to use all my data across every app and every website. I just went, nope. Apple's TV is the only thing I can do that on. Yep. And that may not matter to some people at all, but I like the option. And it's also not just about the TV. Like a lot of the Apple TV apps, like the Netflix team takes huge pride in it. They're the best quality. Some of them have the best quality apps you can get. Apple Arcade is only because it still uses all the native Apple frameworks. It's only available in Apple TV. You can use a Sony controller, an Xbox controller. They're getting better and better games, now that they're putting a lot more effort and money behind it. So to me, the total package is still incredibly valuable. And it's a niche for sure, but it's a niche I don't think Apple wants to abandon, especially as they build out towards VR. Like I've said before, AR is going to build off the Apple Watch. It's a very similar experience with AirPods and Apple Watch and all that. But VR is going to build off the Apple TV. Everything we do now on the Apple TV will be available in ultra premium, one per customer form on the VR box. And Apple still needs to ramp up to that. So I think it's absolutely worthy. It's worthy of their attention and worthy of their continual development.
Yeah, I think that if you look at it as just a video platform, then you're probably right. But I just don't think Apple should build another SKU. I just think that they should do what they do well. They don't do cheap well. They just don't do cheap little things well. And they're going to go into a competition where they just keep on fiddling around with little chips, then it won't really work. And it'll be problematic. I think they should just let people have that market and continue to build the best in class. Because it is the best in class by far. Like it's, the chipset, the power, and what it can do. And the games are just starting, like the Apple Arcade games and other games are just starting to go, just starting to touch on what the Apple TV is capable of, and so, and it's a lot more than these stupid little thumb drives.
I respect what both of you are saying, but what I keep hearing you say over and over again is that it's good to spend an extra $100 for things that don't exist, but you hope will exist someday.
Well, the games
or hope will be relevant someday. We're talking about you're going to talk kids into saying, see all these games that you're enjoying on your phone right now. Well, now you can enjoy it through the big screen. Maybe they don't want to enjoy it through the big screen. But I'm not saying that Apple should cancel the expensive one and switch to something else. I'm not saying that everybody else is stupid. I'm saying that Apple has to. I think that it's very short-sighted and misguided for Apple to say that we're going to sell this $150 box that today, side by side, the way that people are using these devices, if it costs $100 more, it's delivering $18 maybe more worth of value to actual users. I'm not talking about dopes who just are hooking up to an $80 TV that they want at bingo. I'm talking about typical users who are connecting these things. My NVIDIA is connected up to a very, very nice mid-range TV. I can't tell the difference between really on this $1,000 TV, 4K HDR. I can't really tell the difference between an Apple TV, my NVIDIA, and a $50 Google dongle. That's the problem. Apple. I've got all three hooked up to the same TV because I'm using them as a test bed. That's why I'm disappointed by the price of this. Again, I appreciate that when I look at the engineering behind it, I see that this is definitely built for the future, and I absolutely accept your expertise. And from the developer point of view, what is the greatest streaming target? I'm saying when I pick up the remote control in my living room, sit on the sofa, I do not see the extra $100 between the thing and the dongle. I don't see the parity between this and the NVIDIA Shield, which is the HDMI 1 device, because it's a $150 device, but it does great things and earns that money.
The main thing is you build the spec for where you're trying to go. You're able to now test it in mass because people buy their Apple TVs and so on and so forth. You're able to test.
So I'm glad to spend $100 to help Apple test products that they will sell me in the future.
Don't just get it.
Yes, I do.
Who cares? Like, if you don't like it, don't buy it.
Apple is not putting that stamped on the box, saying the reason why we're charging $150 for this is that. No, I'm saying that is. I feel as though that's such a weird thing to say, that you have, if you're selling something to a user for $150, you have your goal, your dream, your ideal is to deliver $150 worth of value. That means that if someone else has a competing product for $100 less, you have to explain what they're getting for that extra $100. I think that all Apple does not make that argument. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, the Gap that makes shirts for $4 and sells them for $60. We've decided that we're willing to pay that. As an Apple TV user, I'm willing to.
Dopes.
As an Apple TV user, I'm willing to continue to invest in that process. I don't trust any of the other ones. I won't let them touch the internet. I won't, to me, I want. There's only one thing that touches the internet that brings me content, and that's my Apple TV. And so for this tiny little market that is me, and the people that buy Apple TVs, evidently, is this tiny, tiny little market that probably sells only a couple million of these out there. So
I wish we knew the numbers. I think that would be the answer to the question.
Well, I can.
You kind of know.
Terrible
you know a percentage. You know a percentage.
The numbers are pretty big.
Are they? You think?
Yeah. big. So anyway, so the numbers are much bigger than you would expect. So I think that it is because we see it across when we stream things, we see what percentage of people are watching on different things, and so if we extrapolate against that, the numbers in our little verticals of what we're doing, numbers of Apple TV, the Apple TV is much bigger than a hobby. So
is
I don't
it
think
bigger
Apple's
than
hurting.
Roku? Probably not, though. Yeah.
No, and it's probably not bigger than Roku, but it is. But because the streams that we do are not, the Roku can't play what I stream. Oh. So it literally.
That's part of the reason, then, Alex.
Right.
You're eliminating the number one device.
But also, I mean, like the Mac is small compared to the PC, and the Mac Pro is very, very small, and those are still markets that Apple wants to take care of.
Yeah. I'm sure it makes sense for Apple, even though it's a hobby, right?
I don't think they're losing money with it. I don't think they're losing money selling it. Yeah. So I think
no one's won the living room yet either.
Yeah, and the thing is that there will, if Apple actually makes the thing that Apple has done with us in the past is gone, hey, here's a new feature. Oh, by the way, that feature works 2 versions back or 1 version back or whatever. They put it all in there so that we would have it when they needed it. And now sometimes we don't get those features as fast as Apple would like because it takes longer to develop them. It's like, oh, that didn't work. Because one thing I will say is Apple does not put out things that, you just know that it's not that everything works, but it is far more stable than most things that go out. And so the thing is that, and if Apple, I will say that if Apple starts to put out high frame rate HDR, even just at 4K, it really causes an issue for not everyone, but Apple doesn't need to cater to everyone, and I don't think Apple should. I think Apple should do what it does well, which is produce a high-end tool. BMWs don't make cheap cars. And so the thing is that Apple builds the thing to handle the best possible quality that we can put out. And it makes a huge difference for us that for people who love to. I've been an audiophile since for 30 years, and so and I've loved video for a long time. And what I want is somebody to pay attention to that, and not lowest common denominator every single thing out there, and just say we're going to make something great, And there's a handful of us that would love Apple to keep moving down the path, and eventually give us the ability to have something in our house for $200 or $300 that is going to give us an incredible experience, of video. And I think that there are plenty of other products for people who think that they're all the same, and people should keep buying them.
There's some numbers. I mean, taken with a grain of salt. Apple doesn't give out numbers, but Strategy Analytics put out numbers for last year. This is global. 1.14 billion streaming devices in use. Almost half of them are televisions. But among the non-TV devices, Amazon is tops with 5% of the market. Followed by Roku with 3% of the market, followed by Apple with 2% of the market. So, so 2% of 1.14 billion is still a significant number.
It's a big number.
Yeah.
It's a big number.
But you could see why, because of this, Apple decided to put Apple TVs in smart TVs. It, by far, dominates the market.
It's the iTunes on Windows discussion again.
Yeah. Yeah, you may not want to, and certainly those processors are underpowered. It is nowhere near the Apple TV experience you'd probably like.
Snoopy. Some of them are so snoopy.
Yeah, and they're snooping the hell out of you. Samsung is 14% of the market, Sony 12%, LG 8%.
But I mean, for 20 million units, though.
Yeah,
it's not a mistake.
No,
it's
not bad.
I'm not saying it's a not successful
and LG is
product
WebOS,
by
so
Apple
I have
standards.
a soft spot in my heart.
Yeah, I do like WebOS. Now, a lot of Apple users have soft spots in their hearts for 1Password. But 1Password apparently doesn't have the same soft spot in their hearts for Apple users. They used to have, in fact, they were originally a native Mac password manager. That's where they started. And of course, for a long time, they've had a native app. Jason Snell writing at 6 Colors, not important enough. 1Password abandons its native Mac app. It's going to Electron, which means cross-platform, basically. I have to say, that's in the beta version of 1Password 8 for Mac. I have to say, my guess is very few people, I don't know, use the app, and most people use the browser extension.
So they've gone above, and like I really like the company. I love Dave Thier and I love Rustam. I'm going to say their names wrong, but they're fantastic people. And there's been a lot of concern and controversy because they expanded into enterprise. They took a lot of VC money, and a lot of times we've seen our favorite apps like corrupt and corrode under that sort of direction, like just not become what we want to use anymore. And so there's been a lot of concern over 1Password. They put up a blog post recently where they discussed that they basically bifurcated the app. They took all the logic and put it server side in a Rust implementation because they thought that would be the best for overall performance across platform. Yeah. But then they had to make UIs for all of the front ends, and they were doing Swift UI because that's the latest and greatest thing. Right. And they just could not make it work on the Mac. And a lot of other developers are going, it's not ready for prime time on the Mac, not unless you're like Apple. And you can basically, you have the engineers, writing the app for you. So, and for a variety of reasons, they couldn't go back and do Catalyst, and they're still working on Swift UI. They didn't have time to go back and redo it in AppKit. So they decided to use the Electron app, which is what they've made for massive cross-platform support and older Macs, because Swift UI doesn't work on older Macs either. They'd planned on that as being sort of their legacy support, and they're being forced is a hard word. They ultimately own the choices that they make.
And to be fair, they're doing that on Windows as well as on Mac OS. It's not just Mac OS.
Windows is capitulated to
Electron,
to native web apps. Well, Electron and progressive web apps, all of that. Like Microsoft no longer really has a native development, not the way they used to with Win32.
Right.
But Apple, we're still fighting for it. So people hate it, and they're like, we're still working on this. You will get your Swift UI app. We haven't abandoned it. It's just like, this is the best that we could do for now. And some people are hella angry.
Yeah. Given our history of shipping great apps built using the native UI toolkit Apple provides, the ability those toolkits gives us to meet the goal of an app that feels at home on the system, we wanted to continue that trend, but we couldn't. So we decided for a two-prong approach. We would build two Mac apps, one written in Swift UI that targeted the latest operating systems, another using Web UI, aka Electron, that allow us to cover older OSs.
I think the problem for me is that Electron apps are just such pigs when it comes to CPU usage. That
because they're basically Chromium. It's an entire Chromium built in. So but on the other hand, we're all used to web UIs, so it's kind of an easy, simple way to make a cross-platform app. Yeah, I'm sympathetic. I didn't realize Swift UI was that hard or that bad.
What we're finding, I know that a lot of us have been talking about it recently, is not that it's hard. It's hard to find people that are available to work on it, because
it's so new.
As soon as you get, it's not that it's new, and also as soon as you show any capability, the number of people that want to hire you is so high that they're just people. It's just really hard to find anybody that's in the wild, And we're finding that with a couple people that I know that are developers. They're like, I have to compete with Apple and Google and Facebook and Amazon and all these other folks that are writing stuff. I have to compete with all of them because they're just snapping people up and paying way more than smaller developers can afford.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe a tempest in a teapot.
Yeah. And at the same time, Apple's really, really increased the purview of the iCloud Keychain system. It does a lot more now. Yesterday they released iCloud Keychain. Basically, in the latest iCloud update for Windows, you can't do everything that you can do in the Mac yet, but you can fill passwords. You can autofill. I don't believe it does credit cards yet, but it's and doesn't do Android, doesn't do Linux. But like for a lot of people, Windows was the pain point.
Yeah.
So
that's the only reason. I mean, I think it's a very good implementation. I know it's extremely secure, but it's I thought it was only Mac. I'm interested to hear this on Windows.
That's a very telling choice. Because they're very, very aware that they've got a lot of users who are Windows laptop users, but their personal phone is an iPhone. Right. They certainly don't want to help people who are maybe iPhone users switch to Android. Think, oh, no worries. All my passwords will just simply migrate over because I just got to download this Android Apple password app.
Yeah. Yik Yak is back. On the App Store. This was the app that, remember, got in a lot of trouble. It's actually a very good idea for a social app. You can only chat with people within 5 miles.
The Verge's graphic was
that's a really small number.
The Verge has it in a folder of apps.
For some of us, that'd be a really small number.
Well, you live in the country.
It's great for riots. To say, if you want to do
what happened, of course, it was used in high schools. What happened? It was used in high schools and colleges. And it was, because it's anonymous, it was used to bully and harass, and that's why it got pulled. Apparently, it's going to continue. It got pulled in 2017, and I think there are a lot of kids in that demographic, who were in college in 2013 to 2017, who still are traumatized by the existence of Yik Yak.
Yik Yak, patty whack.
It was valued at $400 million when it shut down. Square picked up a lot of the engineers. It's not clear who is doing it now, but it's back, and it's still anonymous.
It was such a weird time. Like, do you remember Secret came out around the same time? And then there was also Facebook Sling, where you had to respond to a message before you could read the message. It didn't last more than a few days, but that was their big insight into communication apps.
Yeah.
It was so weird.
It's kind of hard to... you kind of can see this coming. They're going to just go right back to the same problem. And yet, at the same time, I think it's a great idea for an app. It's a neighborhood, Twitter kind of.
Yeah, the anonymous part violates Wheaton's law.
Don't be a jerk. But it is the sort of app where I want to see it out there, to see what positive communities have needed something like this, and oh my God, this is exactly the resource we need. It might be relaunched, not specifically as a your phone is geofenced within a 5-mile radius of your phone. It could be rebranded as it's locked to a certain campus, or it's locked to a certain company property, or it's locked to a certain Wi-Fi base station. And it would be interesting to have a social media app that only works with people that are at my own office, or again in my own neighborhood, as long as it doesn't turn into hey, there's a guy who looks kind of shifty, and because it's anonymous, but it's probably that neighbor who thinks that anybody who is a shade of brown looks a little shifty. That's the problem that we get into when we get into these apps. But I like to see these put out there, at least initially, to see what community is not being served by social media apps and by infrastructure, and what communities can be helped by this sort of stuff.
Why make it anonymous, I wonder? That seems like that's the recipe for disaster.
Yeah, it's a greater internet effort.
I built a lot of communities online.
Anonymous is always a bad idea.
It's a bad idea.
Yeah.
It never works. It always starts like, this will be great, and it never ends up that way.
Right.
It should be. It's okay to be. I think that people can protect their anonymity on a service like this. I think that so long as the service knows who you are, but if you decide that, look, I don't want people knowing that I'm a woman in this particular neighborhood, or this particular at this particular event, or maybe my the name that's on my driver's license does not reflect my true identity, and so I'd much rather be out in the world with my true identity. Or even if this is who I decide to put this is the person that I created to create a firewall between my social media life and my real life. I think that those things are very, very valuable. In some cases, they protect people's health and their safety. But I think you're right, that so long as people can drift through a community without anybody knowing who they are, I think 100% privacy in a situation like this never creates a service that works well for anybody. Except for I think people people don't like consequences, to be correct.
I think that all of your arguments are completely valid. It's just very hard to do. Like it's just hard to have a and I guess for me, the idea of being only connected to the people that are within 5 miles of me seems.
You just don't like your neighbors.
Well, you're on a farm, Alex.
I'm not.
I'm with you. I don't like my neighbors either. I don't want to.
I have a couple great neighbors, but I wouldn't want to be. I wouldn't want to be limited by them.
That's why it lends itself.
I think I have one set. I have one set of neighbors that's right down the thing that I love, and then I just don't know anybody else. Right. Like I had another set that left that were here, and they were great, and then they moved to Connecticut.
You could see though,
and I'm not very, I don't make friends easily
in schools and on campuses. That makes sense. Yeah. Because everybody at your college is within 5 miles.
But that's also what made Secret so bad. Is that people would put all their worst stuff on there, and you didn't know who they were, but you knew you were connected to them on Facebook.
Yeah,
or Twitter.
That's kind of creepy.
It's the same thing. Like they put their worst stuff out there, and you don't know who they are, but you know they're within a 5 mile radius.
They live. I have a knife.
But There's another good example that happened, unfortunately, in Boston just, I think, last week, where there was open gunfire on, I think it's Newbury Street, which is the last place in Boston you would expect like someone be running into a store saying shooter, 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 stay inside, stay inside, stay inside. And so if I could see, like if I were in the middle of the city, sometimes I kind of want to know that, gee, what's that siren that I just heard? Or, hey, why does there seem to be a whole bunch of people that are walking towards Copley Square right now? And if I find out, oh, there's a Ben & Jerry's is there, they're giving out free ice cream, I want to know about that. And if there's a shooter on Newbury Street, I want to know, okay, guess what?
Well, that's
the
next door. That's the next door app, which is not anonymous, by the way. And in fact, it's very much not anonymous. And that hasn't actually made it any better, but at least it's not
people complaining about like someone's letting their dog poop in my yard. Yeah. You know, like that's pretty much next door.
Then you find out it's on purpose. You don't know which neighbor it is, but now you know it's on purpose.
I thought I was finally free from the Adobe Creative Cloud, but they keep pulling me back in. Photoshop on iPad has released a major update to Sky Replacement, Healing Brush, and Magic Wand. It's getting more and more.
They had to. The competition is so hot right now.
It is. Yeah. It's good. I actually re-upped for Lightroom on the iPad because of the workflow. It just seems like the easiest way to do it. But I didn't pay for Photoshop. Really now I'm thinking, oh, crud. I guess Pixelmator Photo still is a pretty good choice. Does a lot of these things.
Pixelmator and Affinity are pretty good.
Pretty darn good.
Unless you really need... I have a copy of Photoshop. I still use it for some things that I have to do, but I use Affinity Photo and Pixelmator, and mostly Affinity Photo on both platforms, mostly.
And there,
it's muscle memory for me. Like I just I have Pixelmator, I use it, but there's sometimes when I just know how to do it in Photoshop and I don't want to take the 5 minutes to figure out how to do it in something else.
Alpha channels. That's the thing that I miss. Like they for some reason they don't. All the other apps don't use alpha. They don't have alpha channels. Yeah. They don't let me explicitly have alpha channels. And as an 30-year user of Photoshop, I'm just very used to manipulating my alpha channels and doing a bunch of things with them, and I can't get to them. And so every time I need to get to them, I go back to Photoshop.
Yeah.
I got to say though that when I've slurped in a photo, whether it's from my phone or from my real camera, on my iPad or on my phone, I do go straight to Lightroom, because in terms of when I'm on my computer here, yes, then I want layers and I want all kinds of really complicated calculation filters and smart objects. But when I just want to say, gee, what would it be? I kind of want the color grading to be kind of like this. I wish there was sort of more of a greenish cast to the shadows, or I want to make sure that this face pops or these eyes pop or whatever. I haven't found it. I do have Affinity Photo. I do have like the Photoshop type apps on my iPad, but none of them get from good photo to the photo that I really, really want to post or share or save as fast as Lightroom.
Darkroom just got updated too. That's another good choice on iOS and Mac. I've been using that. I have all of those, just all of them, just in case. Yeah. I haven't yet settled on any one.
One tool in each one of them that's invaluable.
Exactly. All right, we're going to get your picks.
The ML super resolution on Pixelmator is so much better than Photoshop that I just go there and use that and go back sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. It's a lot easier just to say, I'm a Lightroom guy and I'll do whatever Lightroom will do and nothing else. Yeah. But there's so many tools.
Once you know.
So my favorite.
Once you have knowledge.
Yeah.
I do the exact same thing where I'll spend like 20 minutes getting things quote perfect unquote in Lightroom, and then I'll just say, you know what, I think I'll just put it right through this other app, just as like the dumb app. Say, you know what, the stupid add fat and salt and carbohydrates to this algorithm, like that actually works at 5%, not at 100%, but 5% it does something.
I think one of the problems that Adobe has created, I'm sure that they've done really well with the subscription model, but there's so many of us that are so graded by it that the way that they've done it is, I don't make it. It's definitely not in the whole company, because of that. Number two is that, so because I haven't really needed a new Photoshop feature since like 2010, right? Like that on my day-to-day basis that I would need. There's a lot of cool things, but I don't use them very often. And Illustrator 6 was the last one I really needed. And the trouble is that all of us we bought a bunch of other apps. They're not as good as Photoshop and Illustrator, but we keep trying. And we keep on sending the developers feedback, and we keep on wanting them to be successful. And we still go back and we buy, we use Photoshop or we use Illustrator when we have to, and then we go back. But we keep on trying out this and trying to push these guys forward because because you're just so frustrated. And eventually that catches up with Adobe, I think. Maybe not, but eventually, you're building a lot of high-end users that are coaching your competition because they want out. That's never a sustainable model. And it's just that they charge so much per month for, they don't let you just get what you need and have it be a nominal number. They charge a lot. And so a lot of us are just trying to help people. I don't begrudge Adobe's right to do that. I just think that they open up a gate that a lot of us are trying to push other people through. And I'm not going to get to do any streaming for Adobe after that little bit.
Yeah. No, I'm with you though, and I want to use Adobe's stuff. But you're right; they have created that
it's an adversarial relationship with their users. I really think that they're most useful users. There's definitely people who love Photoshop and they speak at their conferences.
If I knew it as well as you did,
really well.
You do. I don't know if I would ever change. I mean.
It's one of those things. Again, I still go back to Photoshop. I still go back to After Effects, because there's things that After Effects can do that, or it's more stable, or it does something like really, there's certain things that I need After Effects for. But I do most of my motion graphics all in Motion. Right. It's $50 and it works great. I don't have to, I paid once and I keep on getting upgrades and it keeps getting better, and it's a better solution for me.
Yep.
And it's fast and I can put 3D models into it. So excited about that.
Let's take a little tiny time out, and when we come back, we're going to go to the picks of the week. I do want to do a little, put out the little paper cup and say if you'd like to support our shows, you might have noticed it's been a little tough these days, what with COVID and the changing landscape in podcasting. We've really thought that what we would like to do is be kind of listener supported. And so here's your chance. It's not expensive. Club Twit, we call it. $7 a month gets you ad-free versions of all of our shows, audio or video, ad-free and tracker-free. You get access to our wonderful Discord. It's a lot of fun. Great conversations, not just about the shows, but about everything else that's going on in your geeky life. And the Twit Plus feed, which has additional material that doesn't make it to the shows, like conversations before and after the shows, the Giz Fizz, the Untitled Linux Show, and a lot more. If you want to join, go to twit.tv/clubtwit. It'd be a great way to show your support. We thank you, everybody who's joined, a great bunch of people. We really appreciate it. Yes, and if I had a sad-eyed dog and a Sarah McLachlan song, I would play it right now. But instead, in fact, I won't if you just send me $7 right now. Twit.tv/clubtwit. Alex Lindsay, pick of the week, my friend.
I'm going to warn everybody.
Uh-oh.
Giving you a pick. It doesn't look expensive when you start.
Uh-oh. First taste is free?
No, it's not free. It costs money. It's a piece of hardware.
Yeah. It's a pretty piece of hardware.
It's a sickness.
It's
so my pick of the week is the Neutron from Behringer. Now, what Behringer has seemingly done is they've gone back and looked at a lot of things that aren't made available anymore, or they look at patents that they're not. These are old products that people and I think this one's actually a new product. But they've really built an incredible. I've thought of them as just mixers, right? Like Behringer mixers, and some I hated in the past, and now ones I love, and and we use a lot of X32s and other things like that. And so, anyway, so a couple folks in office hours are really good at modular synth, and I was like, I wonder what that's like. It's a couple $100. Like I'll get one.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah, it's a couple $100, and then you go, oh, I think I really need the Crave, which is another couple $100. I really need the Wasp, and then that was another couple $100. And then I was like, it'd be really good to have the Poly D, and so before I know it, I think I'm on my way. So the Neutron is the gateway drug. It's like
so. Are those software modules you add to the Neutron? Are they hardware modules?
No. I bought new. I have a whole
They're just
table
different
of hardware.
synthesizers.
Yeah, I got. And what happens is you. What I love about it is the patching. So
I love it that it has a patch bay.
Oh my gosh, it is so much fun.
That's a very intuitive way to do this.
Well, it's been around. It's been intuitive for the last 30 years. Yeah. It's 30, 40 years, 50 years. So this is where, a lot of electronic music, is definitely in the, where it really began is late 60s, early 70s with the Moog. and you're making music with it, but what you're doing is you're really shaping noise. You create something that's going to create a sine wave, you're going to create some kind of noise, and then you're going to keep working with it, and you're going to turn it into something. And so a lot of the stuff that you hear in electronic music, but also like sound effects, like the 2600 is what I believe Ben Burt used to make R2D2, and you run it through all these effects, and you can do some of this digitally, but there is something about it that I didn't know until I bought it. There's just something about it being organic, and you're just sitting there playing with it. And I got the Neutron, and it sat there for about a week. And then I sat down on a Saturday afternoon, and I was like, I want to figure this out. And for the first 15 minutes, I couldn't get a sound out of it. Like, I was just like, I don't understand this. I was just like, I didn't ask for any help. I didn't look at any videos. I just turned it on and just started fiddling with it. And then 3 hours disappeared. Like I was just suddenly the sound started coming out and I'm playing with it. And I'm hearing the thing is that you're playing with electricity. It's not a digital thing that's making up an effect. It's things that are interacting with each other. And so the thing about modular synth is that as you start to connect things, just new things come out of it. Like, it's not like I'm going to do that effect or whatever. New sounds appear, and they're ephemeral because you have to remember where all the dials were to make that sound. Like, it's not, it's truly an instrument. Like I had an incredible sound at the end of that I can't remember how to. So
how many patch cables would you recommend? I mean, you can't buy this without getting patch cables.
It comes with like all of them. Yeah, I have a feeling that I will end up with a lot, and so I think it comes with 8 of them, and that was enough for me to get started. I am looking at getting a lot more, a little rack for them, and and make them in multicolored, because what happens is you get a whole bunch of patches and you can't figure out which one is which.
Yeah, this way you can take a picture with your phone and then you'd kind of be able to reproduce it.
Well, the main thing is just having lots of different colored patches would help. And then the key is that this is an output, because it's a patch. It's an output. It can go out to another device, and that's where things start to get interesting. So you can tie these to so you can use the patches, not just a patch within itself, but you can patch it to other devices. You can patch it to other modules and other bits and pieces, and has MIDI, and there's a lot of other things that you can start to tie into it. And so it's good geeky fun. That's all I'm saying. Like I don't have any good. Go ahead.
I'm saying that I've been looking at videos of it since you've been talking, and there are buttons and knobs and lights and again patch
it's
cables.
Very analog. It's very physical.
And it's
Andy,
built
I think I had Andy
it's
at
built on it's built on a standard, like, rack standard, and I've seen like now videos of someone who has like 3 or 4 of these, like in a little like curving tower above the keyboard. And now I just want a few of these just to color up the office. Because we need more buttons and knobs.
This would be good to give a smart, musically inclined 16-year-old, for instance, to really get them kind of on their journey, I think.
And the thing is that you can just start playing with it, and things start to come out.
I want to rack mount one in my bathroom.
You never.
Where's Leo? Oh, I hear him. He's in the bathroom again.
Leo. But it's
lucky man he was. Leo.
So we're going to start Trek instruments. You can play that.
We've been doing. What happened was that we had folks that are really good at this, and they're playing stuff in after hours. Not during the main office hours, but the after hours that we don't record. And they'll play stuff for us that are mixtures of this with analog and mixtures with this on its own, and showing us how to do it all. And I started getting like, okay, I want to play. And so we're going to start doing a lot more of it.
But it's not an instrument. It's just making a sound, and then you have to pop it into a MIDI device of some kind.
You can make music out of it without any external input, because it'll be kind of rhythmic. I mean, it'll
sound like R2D2, yeah.
No. If you listen to some of that stuff, people will get it into something that sounds like electronic music, but it's not going to sound like R2D2. You can build it into something that's playing. But, yeah. So...
So this is if like you were into the mod scene, in the day, this would be like you could do this now with all. But so much fun.
Again, it's just really fun, and I've had I used to spin a long time ago for raves, and I was like the warm up person, so all I had was MK1200s. The guys that came in after me would have all this stuff. And I used to look at it going, oh, someday I'll do that. So, 30 years later, now
you got
someday.
it. You finally got it.
I like it.
So and it's only like $350, so it's not,
Start. I'm probably a couple grand into it now. Like
what else have you got? Did you get a rack and more synths?
So I got that. I got the Crave. I got the Wasp. I got the Poly D. And
did you get a keyboard to go with it? What do you use to control it?
The Poly D is a keyboard that I can tie into it. Okay. Yeah, but I can create. You can create arpeggios as well as And I'm waiting to get the RD8, but I'm waiting for the new one. The RD8 is a drum machine. It used to be the 808. So it's a rebuild of the 808, but the new RD8 has anyways. So after that, I'm going to try to slow down, but like Todd Reynolds in our group, he has this amazing one that is not Behringer. It's like $4,000 or $5,000, and it's just this gorgeous piece. And I'm like, I'm not buying that.
Oh, that's next.
Yet. No.
Yeah.
And he creates just amazing music, with it. So I think it's going to be, and we have this member named Carl Asmussen, and he's the one that he gets me up to speed really fast. So at 5 o'clock in the morning, he'll have these things out and he'll start to show me how it all works. And we haven't done it together yet. I've just been learning from him, but now once I get set up, I've been in LA for a week, but once I get back, I'm going to do that. So anyway, I'm just warning everybody that look at it. And if it looks cool, think about it for a little while. Don't buy it immediately. Understand that when you take that first dose, it can be an expensive habit.
So a good question from Doug M in the chat room. Could you do all this in software with Logic Pro or something? I mean,
you could probably do a lot of it in software, and you could also there are software things that will replicate what some of these boards do.
I've seen racks.
Literally you can do it. Here's the thing: is that especially in the replication one, it's great to learn it before you buy it because of like a $4,000 or $5,000 rack. That's something you want to think about for a while. So learning how to do it. When I talked about modular synth and I was like, oh, I can just do this in software. They're like, yeah, but not
as
really.
Fun. Yeah.
Because here's the thing is that you're playing, especially as you start patching these, you're really playing with true electricity, and it is doing things that is creative that is not in the calculation that a software will do.
Right.
And in addition to that, there's something about the organic nature of it that makes it like you're playing with it. And there's something about the freedom of software that likes it. But I think I love the organicness of it, just that I'm pulling things around. Because a lot of times I'm just I started moving the patch around, like, what does it do here? What does it do here? What does it do? Oh, I like that. Now what does it do here, here, here? And you can do that with software as well. But there was something about the organic nature of it that I'm really enjoying, probably more than I should. Because it's not like I don't have other things to do. So, I have to I am keeping it in a small pocket of like when I give myself, because I could do that all night.
Get one of those Euro racks in your bathroom, and it's great. You're just set.
Well, the Euro rack stuff, when you start getting into the little modules, that every module is individual. Like, I know I'll graduate there, but I'm trying to stay away from. I'm staying in the Behringer world right now to like don't because then I'll start building.
Is Rick Wakeman in the bathroom right now? No, it's just Alex in his Euro rack.
He's having a good time. He's got a Euro rack. I have to admit, it would be really, really fun. It would be really, really fun to have just a couple modules in the bathroom.
No, I'm telling you,
like
just something to do.
Like a little, oh, I'm
brushing your teeth.
Make a little music. Make a little music while I make a little music.
I would always be doing the bassy, deep things because I like that.
Well, if I actually make something that I think is remotely worth listening to, I'll bring it to Mac Break.
Please do. Yeah.
I think it's going to be mostly noise for a couple of years.
Well, that's, I've tried all these things in software, and that's all I can do because I'm not a musician. Yeah. So I end up just...
Well, and I think the only reason that I'm adventurous about it is because we have these folks in office hours that know it really well. So I know that I don't have to go up to online forums. We're gonna do labs. So
we have a video, by the way, of Alex's rack right now. I'm just saying.
No, that's what happened. That's what happened.
Honey, what happened to the washing machine and the dryer?
Sorry.
This is how cool it looks, though. I mean, it really would be pretty cool.
If you look at a friend of mine has a website on YouTube called Learning Modular, Chris Myers.
Yeah.
And Chris taught me After Effects of all things. Chris Meyer, and but Learning Modular is the website, and he see.
I want
so
this.
much fun.
He's patching and patching, man. This is all so cool.
Isn't that how telephones used to work?
Yeah.
It is,
yeah.
except it's
Klondike,
music.
594.
All our patch cables when I was working in radio were phono plugs with fabric covered cables.
Yeah, these ones don't have fabric,
These
but I
aren't
want
as fun.
some that have fabric.
Yeah.
No, I want fabric.
Yeah.
And I bet you if I made them myself. See, this is what happens.
Oh, shoot.
If I made them myself, I'm going to have fabric.
Shoot. Oh, boy. Now we got
conductor fabric and a soldering iron, and I'm there,
Yeah.
handmade.
Yeah. Andy and Akko, what's your pick of the week?
This is a fun one. Like, you know that all the times when you're watching a movie like Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and at the end of it, like they make a movie based on Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and it ends with them watching the movie, or that episode of the Office where they show where Michael Scott was making like this movie he was calling Threat Level Midnight, where he stars as a spy. Okay, so this brilliant web designer and illustrator by the name of Lynn Fisher decided to create a parody of Netflix that only contains like those movies, as if those were real movies and real TV shows, and it's done 100% straight. It looks like a streaming video service, and then you go to under spy movies. Okay, oh wow, Threat Level Midnight. It'll list the cast, it'll list the running time. It'll be like a beautiful presentation of like what this would be like as a page on Netflix.
Oh,
they have stills from the movie. The only thing they don't have is like actual video clips, because they would get sued into oblivion.
Oh, they can't actually have the clips.
I'm sure, but that's part of the reason why it's so brilliant is that there's also a high level of standards. It's like a lot of people were asking. I posted this on Twitter. It's been retweeted like 1,000 times. A lot of people say, well, how come there's no Rochelle from Seinfeld? And the reason is like given in the about page for this. Like there are rules. One of them is that it's not enough for someone to mention a character to mention this show, or for there to be like a poster. There actually has to be footage of this fake TV show or this fake thing. So every time on they have a clip from like McBain on The Simpsons, they will have like clips from that. They've got Titanic 2, they've got Amistad 2, they've got and it's such a tribute to all of these like fake. Yeah. Again, you think this is going to end the angels with filthy souls from Home Alone. They've got that one as a movie.
Oh, but now it makes me want to see these.
Exactly. So
it's like, is there a way you can? I mean, it doesn't actually refer to the place that they started, does it?
It will. No, in the last item will show you. It'll tell you what movie it's from.
Oh, you can go
or TV show.
Okay.
So you can't necessarily, it won't necessarily go there, but it's so. I love it. There is like an entry for the Truman Show. Like yes, it was the title of the movie, but it was also the title of like the TV show that documented the character's life for 30 years, and it says running time 30 years.
This is pretty amazing.
Again,
wow.
And it's Lynn Fisher. I got so excited about it once I encountered it on
huge
Saturday
amount
night.
of work. Holy!
She spent months.
Wow.
She spent months on this, and the original loadout of like 300 or 400 stuff was all written by her. She is accepting user generated content.
Good. That's smart.
But she's had to like temporarily pause because she's got so many like people offering things. I would love to see this turn into like the IMDb, where again it's like the one. So there's so many of these fake movies and fake TV shows. It's not just, again, it's easy to do like a poster Rochelle and come up with like a tagline for it.
Right.
But when they say, you know what, we are going to actually build a set for this on 30 Rock. We're going to build a set for the Thomas Jefferson movie. We're going to have costumes. We're going to write dialogue for a 5-second clip. We're going to be putting into one episode as a joke. And she does have a buy me a coffee donation, and believe me, I bought her many copies.
Yeah. This is obviously a labor of love for her, but Now I want to see all of these, right? Oh,
exactly.
Man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I hope it's I hope this is like still going on for like years after this, and it encourages people to like if a producer or a writer is getting like pushback on saying no, if we're going to do Titanic 4 in space, we have to do it like we have to actually have green screen, we have to do modeling. Like why? Because if we get onto Nestflix.fun, that's going to be like the place where everyone's going to find this and everyone's going to love it. It's again all the laughter you've been hearing like for the past 5 minutes. That is me for like the first like 10 minutes. But they don't have. Oh my God, they have it. And then and they of course they have to make a title page when there was no like title screen for it. They have to write a description for it when there's no description. Again, I cannot praise this. This is so, again, it's not just that anybody can have a good idea. I could have had this. How many times have like you been, wow, you know what? There should be like a version of Netflix just for these fake things. And then you get distracted or you move on. Or at best, you'll do this lame version of it that gets a, and then move on. The execution of this, from the design to the writing to the content, is spotless. And that's why this thing could go on for years and years and years.
Nestflix, Nestflix.fun.
And I have to, I'll extend my warning that I put on Twitter. All of you studios out there, Disney, Netflix, if you do anything to screw this up, so help me. I have never been someone who goes on to Usenet to download movies illegally, but I will download movies that I hate just to stick it to you. If you do anything to say, excuse me, but you're using a screen capture from our copyrighted material without a license. Yeah, no, go to hell.
Christmas with the California Prunes.
Again, The Simpsons said, you know what? We don't know how to do claymation, but we will hire people to do claymation just for this one scene because it's a good joke.
Burns for all seasons. Mr. Renee Ritchie, your pick of the week.
So there's no way to follow that. I'm just going to admit that.
That's pretty awesome.
There's no way to follow that.
That's
so
why you're going. Yeah.
Total domination to Andy and Alex this week. So there's a YouTube channel called Gerald Undone. So if you were to imagine what a John Siracusa macOS review would be like if it was for photography gear, that is what this is. It's just the most
This sounds expensive for me. Yeah.
Well, so he will do everything. He will get like a mass spectrometer to see what the actual components of the camera is. He does all his own color, like depth of field. He does everything. He measures everything. He is exacting. But he's also just put out, these are just for fun, he's put out a set of HDMI cables that are purple HDMI cables because his whole channel is based on purple. Right. But that was not enough for him. He had to get iPhondo, who I love, iPhondo Farouk, who does the most amazing Mac reviews. Like the Mac Pro spins around and the camera ducks inside the Mac Pro and comes out and there's colored lights everywhere. And he'll say in his inimitable accent, it's Apple's new Mac Pro, but is it any good? And then he'll proceed to deep dive into the interview. And so he reviewed, as part of the announcement for these purple HDMI cables, which are just really good HDMI cables that happen to be in purple, he got iPhondo to do the review. And it is so brilliant because he tries to put the HDMI cable into shoelaces. He tries to see like anything and everything that you could. This is like how his videos look. But he's doing this whole thing farcically. And I had to buy an extra set of cables just to support the sheer madness and lunacy of this kind of quality of a fake review for a just fun sort of product to tie in, because it's mad genius. So I bought a bunch of these cables.
It'd be nice if you get him to start making patch cables for your synthesizer. These are nice.
So this is all from
amazing.
Condor Blue, and they're usually blue cables, but he got like a bespoke set done in purple just for the show channel. But
nice.
If you go a little bit later on, you'll see like the shoelaces are being tied and all the it is a perfect destruction of how a YouTube review, like, it's just so dumb. But this is how all YouTube reviews really are. So it's everything at once to all people.
It's really. Just make me angry.
I loved it.
That's all it's going to do.
Yeah, I could not find it more adorable.
Gerald Undone and the new HDMI cable episode. I want to mention real quickly. I sent, and I see that you joined, Renee. I'll send you one, Alex, and an invite.
Send me one.
Yeah. And
I think Lisa invited
Alex,
me. So
yeah, Lisa so Lisa got in. This is by invite only. It's called Glass. I found out about it from Om Malik, who wrote about it and interviewed the founders through the Looking Glass. And it's in response kind of to Adam Mosseri at Instagram saying we're no longer a photo sharing app, which is pretty clear. I mean, it's become something completely different. So the founders of Glass, Tom Watson and Stefan Borges, said, maybe we could make kind of a replacement for Instagram that's really focused on photographs. No ads, because it's not free. It's $30 a month if you sign up in the pre-release.
A year.
A year. Did I say a month? I'm sorry. Yeah, $30. That
I was like, wow, that's
a lot.
I'm like, maybe
dedicated camera.
I don't need.
It's kind of like 500px a little bit in the sense that people aren't using it for social media. They're using it to share what they consider to be their best photos. I've been looking for this because the ads on Instagram are overwhelming, and it's all about influencers now and all that. So, but it's not a social site. It's not a place where you say, "Hey, we just went to have lunch, and here's my sandwich." It's really
don't ask for your contacts when you join.
There's some beautiful images. One thing they did, which was smart, is they put the EXIF information from the photo in the post, so you can really see what the photographer's up to. I'm really liking it a lot. I needed a better photo sharing site, so this is, I think, a very good choice. Worth looking at.
This is a total Leica flex for you, Leo.
Yeah. I like it. Boy, it's beautiful. Yeah.
But also, if they just treat photos with respect, instead of saying, well, we recompressed this and the color's kind of screwed up now, and you can't really see the details because we're not going to let you really scroll in. That was one of the things that kept Flickr to be such a good photo site, because it did such a good job. It respects that people are here to enjoy and celebrate photography, not just see, oh wow, it looks like Andy has a new makeup palette for sale on his store. Okay.
It's invite only right now, but I love the EXIF information. I think that's great. But I think it's going to go public eventually. iOS only right now, but I gathered that they might consider doing an Android version. Yeah, it's just easier. It's really beautiful, and as I mentioned, no nudity because it's too complicated to put nudity in something like this. So if you're a nudes photographer, there's a lot of astrophotography, some beautiful stuff. This is Rhys Jones' picture from New Zealand. Oh, and you can leave comments too. And because it's photographers and people have paid money to be here, the comments are very valuable. It is kind of like the early Flickr, frankly, in the early days.
You're not getting hit on for every photo.
Yeah. I'm really enjoying it. Oh, there's somebody I know. Oh. What? What? That's mine. Yeah. It's called You Talking to Me.
I'm the only one here.
So I wanted to give it a plug. It is invite only right now. So you just got to download it for your iOS device. And there's no iPad version, but you could put it on an iPad and ask for an invite. But I noticed it moves fairly quickly. Lisa got hers just a few days later. Glass is the name of it. The website, if you want to at least kind of delve into it, is glass.photo. And I'm kind of wishing them the best. It's not, I know, not for everybody.
I paid for the year immediately.
Me too. $30. Yeah, by the way, that's an early adopter price, $30. It looks like they're going to have a web. I'm not sure. Is there a web version? Because that looks like a web version, doesn't it? So maybe that will come too at some point. I would like that because these photos deserve to be seen on a big screen. There's some beautiful. And
you can look
images.
at the photographers you like on Instagram and then go find them on, like Sebastian DeWitt from Halide is like, you just, as long as you know their name, you can find them on there.
Oh, that's smart. Yeah, because right now you just scroll through a whole bunch of people, which I did. Finding people, you can get notifications if somebody follows you or comments. So it's like, but no ads.
The problem is there are some spectacular photographers on Instagram, like Apple's photo team, their camera team is on Instagram. John McCormick, who runs it, unbelievable. But you can't find him because all the algorithm wants to show you is the latest booty dance, and it's just like where you have to make like search lists, and this is just the photos.
Yeah,
it's so nice.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. Anyway. Just a plug. I want them to do well. I think it's a really great idea. Tom Watson, Stefan Borgia, glass.photo.
Oh. My spot in line is 3,413.
Oh, I'll send you an invite. Don't worry. And Andy, do you want an invite? Now, remember, it's iOS only.
That's okay. I actually, if you saw me earlier on in the show, that's when I noticed glass, and you first mentioned it. Then like, oh well, I think I'll take my iPad and try to get in line for.
Oh
this.
yeah, you could do it on an iPad, sure. Yeah. I will send both Alex and Andy invites. I have a couple left. Don't ask me.
Thank you much.
Don't ask me, folks. I'm done. That's it.
They all went to Alex and Andy. Thank you again to Lisa.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Lisa and I worked out who we were going to invite, so that because we had 6 total. I used one. Lisa actually asked Aunt, and Aunt says, "I don't have an iOS device." So, I would love to see Aunt's photos on here. But anyway, so I will invite Alex. Actually, once we get off the air, I'll ask you which address you want me to use. Is it the one you use most of the time, or I can text it? Why don't I text it to you? Because I think I have your phone. Yeah, I do.
Yep.
Texting it to you right now. Excellent. Our show today brought to you by those fine people we call Club Twit members. Thank you, Club Twit members. Twit.tv/Club Twit. You're very much appreciated. If you want to watch us do it live, it still costs nothing to participate in any way. All you have to do is go to twit.tv/live of a Tuesday morning around 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1800 UTC. We stream live audio and video at twit.tv/live. You can chat at irc.twit.tv. If you're watching live, it's a good way to do that. And, of course, the Discord is also available for Club Twit members. After the fact, the website, twit.tv/mbw. You can also get the YouTube channel there and links to all the big podcast apps, but of course an RSS feed as well is available. If you are using a podcast app that supports reviews, please leave us one, will you? A 5-star review would be much appreciated by all of our team. Also, there's forums, twit.community. There's a Mastodon instance, twit.social for the Twitter types. And all of that's free, and you're encouraged to participate. Renee Ritchie is at youtube.com/Renee Ritchie. What you working on, Renee?
I did my follow-up video to all the Apple image scanning stuff where I tried to propose some, I thought, more privacy-centric solutions. And now I'm just going over iPhone 13 and Apple Watch 7 and all the exciting stuff.
Mega leaks. We'll do that next week. We'll do the mega leaks. What are the odds makers say? Will it be the Wednesday, the 8th after Labor Day, or will it be the 14th, the Tuesday after that?
I think currently people are saying the 14th, but I've also heard some people say it's going to be a little bit later just because it's still 2020.
It was last year, right? Last year was
October.
A month late. Yeah.
October, yeah. I think it'll be September, just middle-ish of the month and not like immediately in the month.
I'm rooting for the 14th.
Yeah.
And of course, whenever it happens, we will cover it. Don't worry. Thank you, Renee. Andy Anako, when are you going to be on GBH next?
Friday at 1 p.m. Just go to wgbhnews.org to stream it live or stream it later.
Nice. At the library yet, or still at home?
No, we're still holding off. It was again, we were going to do it like starting a couple weeks ago, but there was another wave.
Damn you, Delta! Damn you to hell! You did it. Also, Alex Lindsay. Of course, we perfunctorily mention 090.media, his day job, but he also,
which is fun.
It's a great place.
A lot of cool things.
If you need streaming, go to these guys.
Yep.
And then every other hour of the day, officehours.global, where you can catch up on amazing stuff 24/7, pretty much.
We had a great we had a company come in, elk.live. They do remote. You might be interested in this, Leo. They have remote boxes for low latency audio between 2 points.
Ooh.
So we're talking like extremely low latency.
So
if you're within
expensive?
1,000 miles, they're gonna be like $350 for the box, and then the service is like $20 a month if you want to have, like, this is for musicians mostly, but I was thinking for podcasts.
It'd be great.
It would be great,
and that's a reasonable price.
It's an audio interface.
It's not using it's point to point, or is it using the?
It can use a server, so it can do up to, I think they said up to 5 at a time without a computer, but it can also act as a USB, device to your computer. On your end, you can choose. You can see all, like, if you have one of these connected and you're talking to 5 people, you can see 5 stems.
Oh, yeah. What's the name of that?
It's called elk.live. Is the company. They were just on. It hasn't been released yet, but
That's why you have to watch.
They came on office hours, and the big thing is I like now when I hear about any new product, I'm like, hey, let me schedule you for office hours, because all of us are way smarter than one of us. I can't think of like the questions that came up. I couldn't think of. So our second hours now are like, I'm just going to hand it over to the group and then we're just going to ask lots of questions. And we learn, I mean, it was an incredible second hour this hour. And many of them that we're getting, especially when we bring someone in with a product, we all learn a ton about it, in an hour. Because they just get, now I have to admit, I don't know what it's like to be on the other end because they'll get like 60 questions. They're just getting peppered, with all kinds of questions. And so, but we've had, sound devices on and we've had Blackmagic on.
It's a great way to learn about this stuff.
It's really, really fun. Anyway, so it's office hours. You can go to officehours.global to find out more about it.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you all for being here. But I have to say, I'm sorry to say, it's time to get back to work because break time is over. Bye-bye.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am Ant Pruitt, and I want to tell you about my show, Hands-on Photography, here on Twit TV. Each and every week, Thursday that is, I like to sit down and share with you the best tips and tricks that are going to help make you a better photographer. And it's not always about Photoshop. It's not always about just having the biggest and baddest and bestest camera. It can be the simplest of things like leave your eye open when you're looking through the viewfinder. All of these simple tips can really help step your photography game up. So subscribe to the show today. That's twit.tv/hop. And I look forward to talking to you soon.